FanDuel's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by Fasig-Tipton and by Windstar Farm.
Welcome to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Welcome to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. If you are a fan of horse racing, you should be here.
We've got plenty of Breeders' Cup contenders waiting to go on the track.
We are inside the horse van. These are the filly contingent.
We're so fortunate to see so many of these horses in the Breeders' Cup.
He floats. He's very, very good. He's very light on his feet. Just an outstanding work.
The 40th edition of the Breeders' Cup World Championships returns to Santa Anita. For the 11th time, the great race place will be the host. It was Southern California which hosted the inaugural running of the Breeders' Cup back in 1984 on November 10th. Nearly 65,000 were in attendance at the old Hollywood Park. And now it's time to get wild again in Southern California.
Very good.
You heard that, right?
Yeah, very good.
That was fantastic. Go Rocket Ride has been fantastic in the second half of the 3-year-old season, but can he break through with a big win against older horses in the Breeders' Cup Classic? So many storylines coming in each and every year. Amongst them, Cody's Wish, maybe one of the best stories we've had in horse racing over the last few years. Cody's Wish will be back in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile to win again. Archangelo, one of your top 3-year-olds in the division, and the #1 ranked horse by the NTRA's media poll for the Breeders' Cup Classic. And then there is in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, Tamara, one of the best bred horses you'll ever find and one of the most exciting prospects we've seen in many years in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Those are just some of the horses you will be seeing here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. I'm Todd Trupp, and welcome to Santa Anita. Truly an icon in the world of sports, not just in horse racing. There is no facility like this, and thousands of fans are going to discover that on November 3rd and November 4th for 2 championship days of racing. Joining me here on our set, just off the paddock, which is very busy behind us, Simon Bray. Simon, if you look at the health of the Breeders' Cup based on pre-entries, we're in very good shape, really matching up with last year and really a record a few years ago.
Yeah, no question about that. 205 pre-entries that matched last year's, including 43 from Europe. Aidan O'Brien leading the charge with 16. You mentioned Cody's Wish. He's one of 4 defending champions from last year as well. So good to see the longevity with these horses going from Breeders' Cup to Breeders' Cup. Really looking forward to it.
And we have full team coverage here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. We mentioned Archangelo, one of the horses that we'll be seeing a lot on this show, and Arcangelo, a horse that came in very early here to Santa Anita.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 schools of thought, right? 2 trains of thought. You come in on top of the race a little closer, or you come in way ahead of the race. And that's what Arcangelo did, excuse me, for Jenna Antonucci, as we're taking a look at, is that Elite Power, I think, if I'm not mistaken here. So we're taking a live look here.
Speaking of horses that are back to defend their title.
Exactly,
horse who was so dominant in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year. And Elite Power for trainer Bill Mott, who has a big presence here at the Breeders' Cup. And Casa Creed going to be another big horse for him. And, you know, it's interesting to me, Simon, because you worked for Bill Mott. He is a trainer that horses tend to get better as they get older. Correct. Why is that?
Well, he just takes his time. He's a trainer that it doesn't force the issue early. He's over the years, when I worked for him, was known as a turf trainer. 90% of his barn was filled with turf horses for the great Alan Paulson and Theatrical, and that has made a big transition. There's been a big transition and change. He's got a more well-rounded stable now, and horses that just take their time, and he takes their time and develops them and points to the Breeders' Cup. A lot of trainers, I think, start off the year and, you know, start in January and have targets going forward. I think Bill starts backwards. He looks to the Breeders' Cup and comes backwards.
Well, Elite Power has been great at going forwards and has been one of the more consistent horses in the Breeders' Cup Sprint division, but it is going to be a lot tougher than it was for him last year. As far as how he looks out on the main track here at Santa Anita, he absolutely looks a picture.
Yeah, he does. I mean, Bill's horses are always well turned out. You mentioned Cody's Wish of his, Elite Power. Goodnight, Olive, and Caravel are the 4 defending champions from last year. So it's just an easy gallop here, just nothing fancy. This is pretty typical of what Bill does with his horses in between workouts.
And a little bit different this year in that you're going to see that Breeders' Cup Sprint after the Breeders' Cup Classic. Let's talk about the big prize of the 2 championship days of racing here at the Breeders' Cup. It is the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Taking a look at the pre-entries, as we said, headed up by Archangelo, who is at the top of the 3-year-old division, and as we said, the #1 ranked prospect by the MTRA media poll. But when you look internationally, Japan is going to be a factor in this race.
There's no question about that. The horse that, of course, won the Dubai World Cup, Ushba Tesoro, who was very impressive most recently at Funabashi racetrack. That was a prep race. He hadn't raced from March till September. Got to see that race on video a couple of days ago, and he was very, very impressive. He was supposed to win that race, and he did. It was an absolutely perfect starting point to launch into the Breeders' Cup Classic off that layoff.
Okay, let's focus in on Archangelo, your winner of the Belmont Stakes, your winner of the Travers. And, you know, you talk about patient handling. This is not a horse that we were talking about on the road to the Kentucky Derby. And the second half of the year, he has absolutely ruled. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, he came out early to Santa Anita, and it looks like it's paying off. This is his second work, just 2 works ago, back on October 15th.
Yeah, this was 5/8 in a minute flat, pretty much. The 3rd best of 35 that day. I watched some of his workouts from Saratoga earlier this year, and I mean, they're fairly similar. When he works on the bridle, he looks, I wouldn't say he looks a lot smoother, he just looks a lot more collected. You know, people will say, well, he carries his head a little high when he comes off the bridle. That's just him. He just looks a little better when he's collecting on the bridle, as most horses do. So he's finishing up here. He's been asked to finish pretty aggressively. A horse that, you know, working solo, he would be a lot faster, probably a lot quicker in company. He's doing 5/8 in a minute on his own. If you put another horse with him, he'd probably fly down there in 58. But, you know, to your point, well handled by Jenna Antonucci, mimics the sire Arrogate, who got a late start, didn't start until the 3-year-old year, you know, back in, I think it was June, July time, if I'm not mistaken. So she's done a tremendous job with this horse.
The breakthrough win for Archangelo was the Peter Pan. That gave them the confidence to go on to the Belmont Stakes, and at that point, then Jenna Antonucci and Archangelo made their own table. And now they are the leader in the 3-year-old division. A win in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, and there's no doubt he is the horse of the year. So from the Belmont to the Travers, that's a good amount of time.
Yep.
So she had some time to prepare him to go 1.25 miles. Are we seeing anything in the workout pattern similarly? Because now we've been off a little while since the Travers. We're preparing to go 1.25 miles in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Is Jenna Antonucci repeating anything in the way this horse works leading up to this race?
Yeah, I mean, she just, there's not really a pattern, but she just works the horse pretty much 5/8 all the time. I was looking at maybe where she, you know, has a fast work followed by a couple of slow works. I don't see any real pattern there. The last work going into the Travers was 10 days out. I think that's one thing we need to look at. It's the timing more than what she does on the track, the spacing of the workout. So we'll look and see if his last work, you know, is coming up here, excuse me, this weekend. But yeah, this was the half-mile work on the 25th of October, a couple of days ago, the 2nd of 18 that day, and I thought it was, you know, pretty decent. Mimics what we saw last time out, going 5/8. Kind of similar, asked to finish. I like the fact, you know, he does his best work at the end of the races here, but if you just looked at him at face value off the screen, he wouldn't jump out at you as a flashy workhorse. Just goes through the motions.
This was yesterday, and it really does tie in to what you were talking about. 10 days out from the Breeders' Cup Classic, which will be Saturday, November 4th. All right, so that's a little bit of what's going on right now. We're going to have a lot of live works on the show. We also have a lot of workouts from around the country, basically in Kentucky, both at Churchill Downs and at Keeneland. So our full team coverage, Joaquin Jaime on the backside here at Santa Anita. Christina Blacker is out in Clocker's Corner. Scott Hazelton can't stop, won't stop. They're racing at Keeneland today, and the ambassador is joining us. And Kate and Breda are always doing a wonderful job in Louisville, Kentucky at Churchill Downs. But let's start with human caffeine. Michelle Yu!
Thanks, Todd. One of the biggest stories of Breeders' Cup has been the saga of White Abarrio. He's been shipped out here for a few weeks for trainer Rick Dutrow, and he's had a couple of works missed scheduled. So what's happening right now is when he came out, he wore a size 7 shoe, and he gets these glue-on shoes that are very special. But his shoe was too small. So when they came out here, he wasn't jogging as they wanted to see him, so he wasn't allowed to work. They've pushed that. They brought their shoer out here. They got him into his size 8, which his shoe fits now, and he was able to work today. I did catch up with rider Emily Ellingwood, who was aboard for the 59 and change drill, which was out in 112, by the way, and she said it was the best she's ever had a horse work. She said she did ask him at the end, but he totally responded. She had a hard time pulling him up. You guys will get to see that work later on here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Joaquin, what kind of news do you got?
Hey, Michelle, good morning to you. So this is the 40th anniversary of the Breeders' Cup, and just look how this event has evolved over the years. In 1984, there were 77 pre-entries through 7 championship races. Now, 2023, 205 pre-entries through 14 Breeders' Cup championship races. And one of the main things that has changed over that time span is just how frequently these horses race in the afternoons. Check this out. Going back to the inaugural running in 1984, 5 of the original 7 winners had their last race prior to their Breeders' Cup victory within a 12 to 20 day span. What is normal now is these 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 week layoffs when you look at the past performances. So Christina Blacker, that is why our breakfast shows are so important now to see exactly how these contenders are training into their Breeders' Cup race.
That's absolutely right, Joaquin. And one of the horsemen that I wanted to catch up with this morning is Bob Baffert to talk a little bit about Arabian Knight. I figured if I just hang out by his car, I'll be able to catch him this morning. So we are down here on the apron taking a look at all of the horses that are already here in training. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the arrivals, because let's keep in mind that all of the international horses have to be here by Sunday at 10 p.m. Of course, they have to clear quarantine, which is about 42 hours or so, just depending on when all of their blood work and testing does come back. And then the domestic horses have to be here by Tuesday. We've already had a very big international arrival, and that was a few days ago. This last Tuesday, the contingent from Japan came, and the Japanese have sent their largest group of horses to the Breeders' Cup this year. 9 horses from Japan are here. We had our first opportunity to look at them on track yesterday. Amongst those runners, Ushba Tesoro, your Dubai World Cup winner. As far as other arrivals go, we are going to see some planes come in on Saturday and Monday from Kentucky, respectively. Of course, still waiting on a few of the New York-based horses, and horses like Archangelo, who have been here for several weeks, have had the chance to maybe earn a little bit of that home court advantage because Santa Anita has been their home for a little while, training up to the Breeders' Cup. Speaking of Kentucky, let's head there now with Scott Hazelton.
Christina, this Keeneland race course was a hotbed for Breeders' Cup activity, and this is a morning that had some very pivotal workouts and some big-name runners as well prepping for the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita. Pletcher, all of his Breeders' Cup horses worked this morning here at Keeneland. We'll have more on the decision to bring all of his horses here to Lexington before heading out west. Also, Cherie DeVoe with a couple of workers, Ignacio Correas, Rudy Brisset with his filly Yagiri getting ready for the filly and mare sprint. Some sterling reviews from Rudy on that filly as well. So a very, very busy morning at Keeneland Racecourse as we will check in now 73 miles west of Lexington over in Louisville, Kentucky with Caton Bradar at Churchill Downs. Good morning, Caton.
Good morning, Scott. I hope the weather was a little bit better in Lexington than it was here in Kentucky this morning. It was ever-changing and leading the trainers to change some of their plans with as many as 14 Breeders' Cup possible horses stabled here at Churchill. We started out with really warm temperatures in the 70s, and then it dropped just a little bit to more normal 60s range, but then the rain came. It was a light rain that didn't change the track much, but at least one of the 5 workers that took to the track this morning for Breeders' Cup works did hit the rain. That said, the headliner had to be the rock star Timberlake, who, after his win in the Champagne Stakes, has been the talk of the town in the Brad Cox barn. He had his workout this morning at 5:20, one of the first horses to hit the track. I'll have more about that work as well as reaction from Brad Cox and Pretty Mischievous' trainers and all the happenings here at Churchill Downs. But so far, so good. As the rain has let up, at least for now, more works on Hap tomorrow, and right now back to California, where trainers are really looking forward, Simon and Todd, to the idea that the weather will be a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because the long-range forecast puts it at about 80 degrees, very comfortable.
Yeah, very perfect. I mean, no moisture, no precipitation in the forecast. It's going to range from about 74 today all the way to about 82 degrees on Breeders' Cup weekend.
Yeah, as far as works this morning, 57 degrees our temperature right now. Archangelo is out on the main track here at Santa Anita. Of course, his last major work, as we showed you, was on October 25th, but comes out on the track this morning. What are you looking to do after your last, quote-unquote, major workout of the days immediately after?
Yeah, nothing fancy. You're just going to do a light jog, sometimes a light gallop. It depends here. I mean, he's jogging the wrong way right now. Obviously, all the joggers have to go anti-clockwise, but you can see him there, excuse me, with full bandage on, just jogging with the pony. And, you know, these horses are going to go under a lot of routine inspection. New this year is, you know, mandatory jogging on and off the racetrack, especially when they come off. We'll touch on that later on the week, but there's an area that all the horses, when they come off the track, they have to jog in front of the State and Breeders' Cup veterinarians. So they'll be watching all these horses closely, particularly after, you know, a workout and the first day back to the track. So
how different is the racing surface that Archangelo is facing here versus what he faced at Belmont Park in Saratoga?
Well, I would think it's you know, we've talked to trainers here at Santa Anita, you know, throughout the meet, and one in particular said it's pretty sandy. There's a lot more sand in it, a lot of kickback. I think he can handle it, though, you know, because, you know, he's been to Gulfstream, he's been to Belmont, Saratoga. He takes his racetrack with him. I think good horses can do that. I don't think the surface is going to be an issue, especially as he's been out here, you know, for a good couple of weeks now.
Archangelo, the son of Arrogate, who could forget the Breeders' Cup Classic here, where Arrogate impossibly ran down California Chrome in the final strides of the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. And here we are, the son of Arrogate, Archangelo, as one of our favorites in what appears to be a wide-open Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Michelle?
Right here, Miles, you can see, like, on the rail, there's like 2 purple indicators. You guys can see right here what Simon was alluding to about the veterinary jog-ups. On the rail over here, there are 2 purple markings right as the horses are exiting the quarter-mile chute. And we have a couple of veterinarians standing by. There's one right at the marking, and then there's another pair of them here at the end. So every Breeders' Cup horse, when they exit the track, has to jog in that entire painted area for a soundness exam. And that is every single day they come out, and it has to be under rider.
Simon, again, for those who don't know, you were a Grade 1 winning trainer quite a few moons ago.
Correct, a long time ago.
Yeah, so a little over 20 years ago. But how much has it changed on this front, the safety protocols that we're seeing at big events?
Not even the same sport to what I competed in 20 years ago as far as safety and veterinary protocols. It's just come leaps and bounds. It's, you know, the parallel that I make to mainstream sports is what the NFL is trying to do with, you know, concussion protocols. I mean, it would be a different, I mean, if you ask a player that's in the NFL today and you take somebody from 20, 30 years ago, it's probably totally different with the concussion protocols, the helmet safety, the design of the helmet, what they can and can't do in practice, the contact they're allowed during practice. That's exactly a similar parallel in horse racing. It's changed immensely. There are numerous veterinarians around the racetrack. The jogging off the racetrack is new this year, but they will have, you know, pre-workout inspections. They'll have inspections in the barn area. There will be a litany of notes on every single horse that is pre-entered for the Breeders' Cup. So these veterinarians can see any changes over the next 10 days.
And this is really a reflection of California racing.
Yes,
California has certainly become one of the safest places to race in the country. It's the protocols in place. It's also the technology that they have here.
Right. I mean, they've invested a lot of money. The first racing group here with the PET scans, the MRIs. I mean, just all that medical technology that we've had available to humans for so many years, they've adapted it for these horses, and it's made a big, big difference.
Behind us here, you can see a number of horses schooling in the paddock, and they also have their saddle towels, which indicate whom they are and what division they are in. So a lot of people have come out to watch all the action here. In fact, one of the main Japanese horses is right behind us.
Yeah, he just went by. Number 105, you'll see him come around. Ushba Tesora. He looked phenomenal. I saw him galloping, it wasn't too long ago, moments ago, and he looked tremendous. He's looked good on the track this week. Look at him. I mean, this is a horse that's, traveled all the way from Japan. Like I said, he had his prep race at Funabashi Racecourse, and he couldn't have won more easily in the Nippon TV High. But it was an easy race. He was meant to win. He was 60 cents on the dollar. But talk about a perfect prep coming into the Breeders' Cup Classic. Don't sleep on this horse. We've seen the last few years how the Japanese runners globally have shown that they can compete anywhere in the world. This horse, obviously, evidence of him winning the Dubai World Cup. So I think he looks tremendous.
And we were kind of surprised there was, after the success at Del Mar for Japan with 2 breakthrough wins, it was light last year at Keeneland, and now they've come back. It seems like there's something to California, because even before they came over and had success at the Breeders' Cup, you would see Japanese horses take chances on major California races like the Grade 1 American Oaks.
Yep. Yeah, Cesario, of course, would put the Jap. Well, logistically, it's a lot easier for them coming across the Pacific Ocean. I mean, it's a much easier ship for them, and I think, it ebbs and flows. Some years, they'll have more runners, but I mean, look at this horse. I mean, he is tremendous, carrying great condition. Moving very, very well. Just, a nice, easy gallop there. And these Japanese horses, they'll spend a lot more time maybe out of the stalls here, especially where they're only tending to, 3-4 horses at a time here. They'll walk around the paddock. They do a lot of walking before they go out to the track as well.
Ushba Tesoro, the 6-year-old son of Orfev, who is definitely a contender in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Let's talk about the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Let's talk about what at Santa Anita, what you have as your options for training. You obviously have the turf course, you obviously have the main track, but what should not be overlooked is you do have a training track here, and we're watching Elm Drive on the training track right now.
Yeah, some trainers, Phil D'Amato in particular, who trains Elm Drive, he's very fond of training on the training track. He's primarily a grass trainer, I would say, even though this is a dirt horse, but he trains a lot of his grass horses on the training track, and this is Elm Drive here. This is pretty aggressive, looks like. I'm not sure whether he's going to try and work here on the training track. It looks like it, unless she's going to go ahead and just do an open gallop, but she is going very, very easy here.
So how far in circumference around is the training track?
Yeah, good question. 7 furlongs, 7/8 of a mile. So
you'll have much tighter turns here, but very aggressive move. And again, this will also show up over the course of the week here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. You're going to watch sprinters train much different than, say, an Archangelo preparing for a mile and a quarter.
Yeah, exactly. Up-tempo filly. Mare, she's, you look at her workouts, it's just posted bullet workouts across the page. Now the rider just drops his hands and he's letting her finish up here. Very, very, up-tempo filly. Likes her work, works on the bridle, and is very, very fast.
Kind of been a star-crossed, he arrived early, but a star-crossed trip for White Abarrio, leading to the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. First of all, it kind of reflects his year. Such an up-and-down year.
Yep.
He ends up eventually with Rick Dutrow, gets his breakthrough win, but he's had starts and stops out here in California. Kind of catch the audience up on what's been going on with White Abarrio.
Yeah, kind of what Michelle touched on it a little bit with the shoe issues, wearing different size shoes. He had some feet issues. He was scheduled to have 2 works, as she mentioned, and they didn't, the veterinarians here didn't permit him to work. So McKinley flew in, a blacksmith on the East Coast, fixed up the shoe. So this was this morning. He worked 5/8 and 59 and 8. And looked very good doing it. I wouldn't say he's an easy horse to train, probably, with foot issues. They can be very, very tough, very hard to manage if you're a trainer. But Rick Dutrow, I would say one of the best. Now he's back in the business here. One of the best at managing horses with feet problems. He's had a history of it. Big Brown, of course, would be one of them that he did. But the big thing for this horse is to see how he comes out of the work tomorrow after this workout.
Yeah, having not raced since August 5th is no kind of layoff. His trainer's had a 10-year layoff. And White Abarrio trying to, with Rick Dutrow, he's going to be a big story at this Breeders' Cup because of that 10 years away from the game. And then to come back in your first year and possibly win the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, that truly is unthinkable, but it's a possibility here now with White Abarrio.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something comparable in sports. It would be like letting Pete Rose back in baseball. So I don't know, or Alex Rodriguez. He had the longest suspension in baseball, right? And came back for a little while.
Yeah, so Rick Dutrow is back. babe. Let's talk about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and one of those horses coming out on the track right now. This is a look at Flattery.
Yeah, Flattery, who comes into the picture here, looks like they are getting ready to jog on Juvenile Fillies turf. Looks like they're jogging and getting ready to work out, if I'm not mistaken. And this is the Peter Urton runner. Yeah, it looks like they're going to work because the rider's got the irons up. Looks like Juan Hernandez in the saddle there, who's been aboard for the first 3 starts. First 2 were very, very good, and then, you know, just came up a little bit short behind Dreamfire, who was a gate-to-wire winner in the Surfer Girl here at Santa Anita. I don't take anything away from Flattery for that effort, because she came from off the pace, and it was hard to reel in Dreamfire.
And Pete Urton had one of his best summers at Del Mar. This was one of the horses that rose within his barn and is now getting this big opportunity in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. And other horses in another division, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, Stay Hot. And so Pete Urton trying to get a couple of horses out here. So Stay Hot, a winner last time out when stepping on the turf for the first time here at Santa Anita, and off that maiden victory, hoping to pull off an upset here in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf.
Liked his win last out. I liked him going in that race. Couple of sprints, stretching out, bred to like the grass. This is him, good-looking son of Summer Front. And here he is breaking off. And I believe Antonio Freso is aboard, if I'm not mistaken. It's hard to see from here, but yeah, pretty good workout. They're working, looks like 5/8 here.
And a lot of, you know, when you're preparing for a turf race, do you have to have a turf work? In other words, you don't have to, obviously, it's not required, but as a trainer, would you like to have a work over the turf prior to your big turf race?
It depends. A lot of these young 2-year-olds, they probably don't need it. Most of them start their careers on the dirt. So, I mean, the way this horse is working on the dirt, I mean, this is on the training track too, as you can see there. I wouldn't be too concerned about whether he works on the turf or dirt. He gets over the dirt very, very well there, at least for training purposes. I mean, he ran 3rd first out sprinting on the dirt, so I would have no issue with him working on the dirt going into a turf race. He looked great.
Stay Hot, a Ridgeline son of Summerfront out of the Smart Strike mare Etsu, bred by the late Brereton Jones in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So from Stay Hot and the Pete Urton barn, taking a look now once again back in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf, Flattery.
Yeah, I like this filly. I mean, I've always liked her, and you can see why she started her racing career at 2 turns right out of the box. I mean, look at her physically. She's got, you know, a little higher knee action, turf knee action. You can see that more rounded. Those front legs are more rounded than lower to the ground. Big, long striding filly. She'll get better with age. But yeah, I mean, she is bred to love the grass, and she moves like it as well. I mean, I totally see why they didn't debut this horse on the dirt.
Flattery, daughter of Flatter, out of the unbridled song mare Mystic Miracle, bred by Mockmore Hall and Kerry Brogdon in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. With the trainer of both the horses you just watched, Michelle Yu.
Thanks, guys. Pete, just initial thoughts about the last 2 works for your Breeders' Cup runners there?
Flattery just kind of wanted to go by herself, just kind of stretch her legs a little bit. She did just that. Very pleased with it. And the colt, Stay Hot, he couldn't be looking any better, you know, so it's kind of exciting to have them both doing so well.
Pete, double dipping here. He's timing his next horse that's working right now as we interview him. Why has Santa Anita been so good to you from a Breeders' Cup standpoint?
Oh, I guess you have maybe a slight advantage being here, you know, especially with young horses. You don't have to ship them anywhere, for any horse that matter. At least for me, it has. You know, I've been lucky enough to get a couple because of that, but had they been somewhere else, I don't know, you know.
And Todd and Simon were talking about working a horse on turf versus dirt. Obviously, we don't have an ability to work horses here on the grass. Why do you opt for the training track for these 2 grass horses?
You know what? It just seems to be a little more kind. I mean, a little bit tighter. The main track is always a little bit deeper, as you'll notice by the times in the morning as well as in the afternoon. You'll see them run miles, and my God, 140s at times. So I think for a turf horse, they seem to be able to run on top of it more so than they do, like they do on turf.
Appreciate it, Pete. Get back to work.
Anytime.
Peter Urton had those two horses you guys just watched, Flattery and Stay Hot.
Thank you, Michelle Yu. The Great Race Place is getting ready to host you for the Breeders' Cup. There are still tickets available. You want to be here for the 40th edition of the Breeders' Cup World Championships. The Great Race Place is exactly that. If you've never been here, change that and enjoy championship racing. Tickets available now at breederscup.com. We'll be back with more breakfast at the Breeders' Cup right after this.
The Best 2-Year-Old by legendary sire Quality Road.
Get back, $1.5 million. Very, very impressive debut. Cantering home could not have been more impressive.
Coast to coast in the American Pharaoh. He's the real deal.
Undefeated and unchallenged at 2.
He's just too good. He wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Corniche.
Hey, so I found a betting system that's really working great for me.
So did I. What's yours?
I set up an hour-a-week time limit on FanDuel. I can also set up wager limits, so I only bet what I can afford, and betting stays fun.
Right.
So what's your system?
What's that?
Your system. What's your system? What is that?
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours.
Hey there, it's Craig Carden. I know I can't believe it either, but the World Series is officially here. So if you're choosing to make a wager on the series this year, please be sure to do so responsibly. Gambling should always be fun, social, and entertaining. If at any time you reach a point where it's not all three, take a break, take a breath. Go to FanDuel.com/playwell. Go there right now. Run. Go there and learn more.
I always said there was something about Zenyatta. It's like she's taken another level of evolution to communicate with us. She just had something. The way she looked at you in the eye was different. She's highly intelligent. I think that's what allowed her to bond with certain people, especially Mike Smith.
Zenyatta's still dancing her way to the racetrack.
I just loved everything about her and the way she pranced, of course.
Fields sent on their way in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Zenyatta is dead last. Zenyatta's dead last early.
She'd goof around, on the back stretch, racing, looking around, not really into it. And when she decided to go, it was magic.
Zenyatta has a lot of ground to make up. Zenyatta, if she wins this, she'll be a super horse. She's starting to pick them off, though. Zenyatta going to hook to the outside. Meanwhile, it's Colonel John Summerbird in the red cap. And Zenyatta's come to the outside. Zenyatta coming flying on the grandstand side. This is unbelievable. Zenyatta, what a performance. One we'll never forget.
Just so loud, so exciting. And I think sometimes people really do get behind a horse, not just the bet they won. She had to win because she wanted to win.
So, you and I had the privilege of being here on that day back in 2009 to watch Zenyatta. We also happened to be there when American Pharaoh won the Triple Crown, and I can tell you, The reaction for Zenyatta exceeded what I witnessed for American Pharaoh winning the Triple Crown. It's my favorite moment at the racetrack, and I know Zenyatta created a lot of fans beating the boys for the first time, the first female racehorse to do that in the Longines Breeders' Cup class.
Tremendous run. I mean, I think, the longevity is what attracted fans. She was around for quite some time. I mean, 14 wins in a row. She would come back and only get beaten a head or a nose by Blame the following year. And just look at her statistics here, her stats. 17-time stakes winner, including 13 Grade 1 events. That's unbelievable. Earnings of $7.3 million, 20 starts, 19 wins. That one lone defeat, I would arguably say, might have been the best race of her career.
I agree with you.
The ironic thing about that.
It was so tough to make up ground that night at Churchill Downs as they got later in the day, and she made up an impossible amount of ground to make it a race against Blame. And then to look at the races, the Grade 1 races that she won 3 times out here in California, just remarkable. We'll never see another like her in the sport, and we cherish every memory. They've got, in fact, when you come to Santa Anita, they now have a statue right out there at Monument Garden. A lot of people stop by and take pictures with Zenyatta's statue, and it was great watching her in person, and I had a chance to catch up with her a few years later out at Lane's End, and it was a true treat. Incredibly, the Breeders' Cup would not come back until 2019 here at Santa Anita, and they were in the long shadow of what Zenyatta had done 10 years prior, but what a show it was.
Gentlemen, ladies, the Breeders' Cup has made its way out west. Some epic racing is about to go down.
History is in the air. The money, big. Real big. Crowds, fancy. Real fancy. Biggest names in the game are all here. Every one of them gunning for the winner's circle. Contenders, a strong female lead. But the payoff has to be the big finish. Drama as they approach the finish line.
Who's it gonna be?
The fans all around screaming and yelling and clapping.
You can just feel the history as you make your way through this iconic grandstand. Underneath the most picturesque backdrop in all of sports. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, the real thing can leave you speechless.
Now that's how you get people ready for a race.
All the fashion and celebs are great, don't get me wrong. We are here for so much more than the party.
And we are ready to go. They're off in the Juvenile Turf Sprint. 4-wheel drive on top by a length and a half. They're coming down to the line, and it's the son of American Pharaoh. 4-wheel drive.
Trainer Wesley Ward is so good at getting these 2-year-olds to break quickly out of the gate.
They're off. Instructor came out well from the inside. Is Billy Betts. Structor is finishing strong too. Structor and Jose Ortiz. Donna Veloce is down on the inside. British-Idiom confronts her, and Donna Veloce digs down deep. Donna Veloce and British-Idiom, but British-Idiom won it. It is Storm the Court, who is the pace setter onto the backstretch. And 8 Rings and John Velasquez are 3/4 of a length behind. Storm the Court battles on inside of Van O'Dore, and it is Storm the Court who won it.
Tip my hat to trainer Peter Urton, father of our own Brittany Urton.
I'm completely biased, but I could not be more proud of you right now.
Thank you, baby.
On behalf of Three Chimneys Farm, we'd like to present the 3 Cheers to the Breeder Award to Stepping Stone Farm for Breeders' Cup Juvenile Champion Storm the Court. Congratulations.
I'm going to go with Covfefe on the rail. Covfefe at 2-1, named after that infamously misspelled tweet by the president, Covfefe.
They're off. Covfefe and Spice Perfection. Covfefe, Bellafina on the far outside, and Covfefe does it!
Everything that goes into getting to this moment, it all has to work, and when it does, it's incredible.
More than a year ago, Belvoir Bay was involved
with a lot of other horses at San Luis Rey Downs in that tragic fire. Got her back, and it turns out that she was better than ever.
And it's the mare in front, Belvoir Bay. It's the fastest ever in this turf sprint. Belvoir Bay goes all the way.
The only female in the race beats the boys.
Iridessa finds her position. Iridessa has taken the lead. Vasilika fights her. It will be Iridessa.
And trainer Joseph O'Brien becoming the youngest trainer ever to win a Breeders' Cup event.
Matoli on the outside. Chancelant and Matoli. Matoli's a monster. Matoli wins the sprint. Oh, what a horse he is.
Always a story when the ladies take on the boys, and that is what we have. The Got Stormy, see 3-1. Then you got Uni.
And Got Stormy and Uni are moving together. Got Stormy and Uni. The two girls take over. Uni to the front. Blue Prize strikes the front. Midnight Visa was closing on the outside. And it's going to be Blue Prize and Joe Bravo.
That was my first Breeders' Cup win after so long, but she did it.
Bricks and Mortar racing in traffic here. Here comes Bricks and Mortar. These two down to the wire. Bricks and Mortar. He's built like a champion.
The Breeders' Cup Classic, the most prestigious and richest race of the 2 days, and winner takes home their share of $6 million.
Zenyatta is celebrated because it's the 10th anniversary of her success. Can emulate another big, powerful, strong-running filly, I wonder.
Go get it, girl.
Is it McKenzie? You just referenced Baffert. He's running for the memory of his friend Brad McKenzie.
I'm going with Code of Honor.
Higher power.
Vino Rosso.
Vino Rosso.
I'm going to go Vino Rosso.
They're off in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Vino Rosso alongside. These two at the 16th pole. Vino Rosso has taken the lead. And it's a vintage performance by Vino Rosso in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
That was the last time that the Breeders' Cup was here at Santa Anita, and this November 3rd and November 4th, Santa Anita will host the Breeders' Cup for an 11th record time. Let's check in with Michelle Yu.
Guys, I'm standing by right now with Val Brinkerhoff, who has Where's My Ring? And she's actually out visiting us right now. They were going to take a picture of her in front of her saddle towels for the owner. Val, she put in a work this morning. We didn't catch it because it was before our show was on, but I gave it an A. What were your thoughts?
Well, I was pretty impressed myself. We started her about 5 blanks behind some other horses because I didn't have any company for her, and when they turned for home, she just blew their doors off. A fantastic time and galloped out like a monster.
You have her cross-centered, but you're really hoping to get into the dirt race despite her last race being on grass.
Yeah, I thought I'd try the grass because she's got kind of grass breeding in there, but I think she'll be much better on the dirt, and I like the added distance also.
When you're kind of waiting for a big race to come up, do you get nervous, or is it just like every day, it's a race?
No, I really get nervous. When I used to ride, it didn't bother me because I had a little control when you're on their back, but when you're waiting and hope everything goes right, it's pretty nerve-wracking sometimes.
Well, I appreciate you spending the time with us and bringing her out. She looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Guys, there's this Where's My Ring for Val Brinkerhoff.
Where's My Ring has yet to win a race, so it would be a shocking upset wherever she ends up, either the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies on the dirt or the turf. We're just getting started from Val Brinkerhoff to Bob Baffert. We've got it all here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
With FanDuel, every night is a watch party. New customers bet $5 to get $150 bonus if your team wins. Bet all the stars with all your friends and tell them that they get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us with any $5 bet. Only on FanDuel. New customers bet $5, get $150 bonus if your team wins. Plus NBA League Pass on us.
As horse racing's greatest take the stage at the Breeders' Cup, we're working to provide an ecosystem of care to keep these athletes safe. With the sport's most comprehensive veterinary examinations starting weeks before entry, up until they leave the starting gate. With extensive racing, surface testing, and measurement protocols. New national uniform regulation and rigorous enforcement under the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. And with the addition of advanced technology and new diagnostic tools, we're taking great and positive strides. But we are committed to doing much more. So no matter who wears the crown, safety runs first at the Breeders' Cup. To learn more, visit breederscup.com/safety.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger.
Lightning Spear and Shane Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, drawing line.
The purple cap, Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won.
The other midline, Mongostina has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
It is going to be Parabel to win the turf sprint.
At Keeneland, a horse will always be measured in hands. Hands that see, that sense, that speak. Hands that hold our sport to a higher standard. Not for our sake, but for theirs. For the love of the horse, for generations to come.
We're back here and getting set for the track to open up right now at 7:45. So Go Rocket Ride, one of the numerous 3-year-olds that's going to be competing in the Breeders' Cup Classic this year, was just warming up out on the training track with Hall of Famer Mike Smith aboard. He was with the pony warming up on the training track, and he was expected to work this morning. Right now at 7:45, and a stiff work for Hall of Fame trainer Richard Mandella. He was expected to go 7 furlongs on the main track. As all these horses started getting ready to walk onto the main track, Go Rocket Ride was actually walking off the racetrack right now with Mike Smith. I asked Mike how far he was going to go this afternoon or this morning, and he said that actually they're going to change plans and they're going to work tomorrow instead for Go Rocket Ride. So I'll try to follow up, guys, with Hall of Fame trainer Richard Mandella in just a moment, but we thought we were going to see Go Rocket Ride preparing for the Classic this morning. That's going to have to wait, at least for now, until tomorrow.
And Dick Mandella, we were talking about, you were saying with Gina Antonucci and Arcangelo preparing for the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, a lot of 5/8, half-mile workouts. Dick Mandella, kind of an older school of thought with the longer workouts coming into a longer race.
Yeah, he does. I mean, it's not uncommon to see him work horses 7 furlongs, which you don't see very often. I mean, 5/8 is the standard distance, 3/4. But yeah, so late change of plans there. Interesting that they were going to work and for whatever reason decided to go tomorrow.
Okay, stay tuned to Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup for all the latest around Go Rocket Ride and all the horses leading to the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, as well as all of the other divisions. As mentioned by Joaquin, they just opened up the track again, so a lot of horses gathering here. Remember, we've got the Breeders' Cup horses. We saw at the Kentucky Derby, they would clear the time for Kentucky Derby horses to come out. With the Breeders' Cup, we do have horses that are coming out mixing with horses that are preparing just for regular races in Santa Anita.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to shut the track down for the Breeders' Cup. Kentucky Derby's a little different. 20 runners here. We got 205 pre-entered, but there is endlessly right in the middle of your screen there with the white bridle. That's Juan Hernandez. Excuse me, with the black vest, white sleeves for trainer Michael McCarthy. Now, this horse has established himself by far as the best 2-year-old on the turf, at least on the West Coast. He's 3 for 3. He's undefeated. He's done everything that he needs to do, and he's got the pedigree to go along with it. A homebred for Mrs. Ammerman, John and Jerry Ammerman. So been liking him in all his 3 starts. A couple of Del Mar, and he won the local Zuma Beach prep here for the Juvenile Turf.
son of Oscar Performance, who's definitely got off to a tremendous start at stud. He's established himself quickly and was a bargain when Endlessly was purchased, with Oscar Performance at that time standing for $20,000. 3 for 3, as Simon mentioned, and going through the best races out here on the West Coast for 2-year-olds on the turf. Going back to the juvenile fillies, coming out onto the track right now, taking a look at
Chattelas for trainer Mark Glatt, who's coming out to work here. She won the local prep here, the Chandelier Stakes. She went gate to wire that day. I mean, slowish time, but as we've mentioned, this track is a little deeper. I said it at the top of the show. Peter Urton kind of backed it up in his interview with Michelle, and she will be working 5 furlongs, so she'll just jog here, gallop to the pole, and break off and work 5 furlongs.
You mentioned that win in the Chandelier. She went gate to wire her first time around 2 turns. She had chased a really fast pace in the Grade 1 Del Mar debutante, and she chased also the best horse in this division by far, who happens to reside in California. Talking about Tamara. She wasn't even close to Tamara. Chattelas lost to Tamara by nearly 13 lengths in the Del Mar debutante, then comes back to win the Chandelier rather comfortably. It really tells you just how good Tamara is.
Tamara might be one of the shortest priced horses over the 2 days.
Deservedly so.
Yeah.
I mean, the only question out there is the 2 turns, but you just don't see anything. And yes, limited starts, but that would suggest that's ever going to be an issue. And through her pedigree, she's bred to be a champion.
She's bred to be better around 2 turns.
Yes, that's absolutely
She might
right.
win the juvenile fillies by 10 instead of the debutante by 6. She's out of Beholder. But we're looking at Chattelas right now, the Candy Ride filly for trainer, the Gun Runner filly for trainer Mark Glatt. I think that's Antonia Fresu, who's aboard for the win. He looks like he's in the saddle there, getting ready to work her.
So if they're going to work 5 furlongs and she just came onto the racetrack, is she going to go all the way around first, or
no? It looks like
try and go right into it.
You'd go right into it, I would imagine. Watching it here without the pony, yeah. So she's kind of just loping to the pole there. She's just in a semi-jog canter, and then once they get around the turn there, you'll see Antonio Fresu. He'll start looking around. There's 2 horses to his outside. Looks like they're going to work. He doesn't want to get in company with them. He's probably saying something, how far are you working? I'm working 5/8. Let me go ahead. And everyone's respectful. When they see other horses working, they're respectful of their space.
Michelle, watching this work along with us.
Guys, I'm right now with Ryan Glatt, who's assistant to his dad, Mark. They have Chattelas out here. I was trying to find her. You said your pony might be a little slow?
Just a little bit.
What's her MO? So she's just going to go right to the pole and then start?
Yeah, she's just going to go right up to the pole, get a good warm-up to start, and I think she's getting going now, so we'll see what happens.
What kind of work are you guys hoping for here?
Just an easy one-on-one and change. She had a good work last week, and she's plenty fit. Been running right over this track, so I'm not really too worried about fitness.
Is she pretty kind as far as wanting to go a little bit slower?
Extremely, yeah. She does whatever you ask her to.
All right, guys, we have Chattelas working right here under Antonio Fresu. What do you think about her right now coming around the turn?
Looks good. She got something about a half furlong in front of her and something right behind her, so we'll see how she finishes up here.
It seemed that you didn't want to be too close to horses in front, so is this a good distance where she's not too keen on trying to catch that horse in front of her?
Yeah, we just wanted her to go through the motion this morning, nothing too fast, so just going right here in front of us, going good.
What's behind the decision to put a rider on instead of an exercise rider if you don't want her to go super fast?
Antonio knows her pretty well, and if we tell Antonio what to do, he'll do what you tell him. He's not, sometimes riders will let your horses work too fast in the mornings, but obviously we want to keep a lighter weight in the morning sometimes, and Antonio's obviously riding weight, so we'll keep him on.
Looks like a good finish for the nice gallop out.
Yeah, I like the way she's galloping out, so hopefully we'll get lucky next week.
Appreciate the time, Ryan.
Thank you.
Guys?
Chattelas, you just watched her work live preparing for the NetJets Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Let's go back to Endlessly. And Endlessly coming out onto the track moments ago as well. And this horse appears to be in company today.
Yeah, it looks like it. It's a Michael McCarthy horse to the outside, but Endlessly on the inside there. They'll probably go 5/8 together, I would imagine, would be my guess.
3 for 3, undefeated son of Oscar Performance, endlessly taking the Del Mar Juvenile Turf, and then following that up with just as easy of a win in the Grade 3 Zuma Beach.
Yeah, you're going to see they're going to break off together. My guess, Mike will be looking for something like 101, maybe a minute and 4/5 together on the bridle. I bet they're probably not asked to finish a whole lot. These two horses were probably just, working company. And the the idea of that is that, by working in company, you make each horse competitive. They don't have to do too much off the bridle. What I mean by that is that the rider doesn't have to ask them to finish up and do their work. They can do everything without duress, and obviously it's a lot easier on the horse. The risk of injury lowers considerably.
When deciding whether or not they want a trainer when they're working in company with the main horse, in this case being Endlessly, how do they decide inside or outside in the workout?
It just depends. I mean, it's a case-by-case situation. Does the workmate get out? It doesn't really matter. I mean, you take it case by case. Sometimes they'll work in behind and you can see he's going a lot better there. One hand, just give him a little tap there to finish up on the outside. A good strong gallop out, but I'd be happy with that work. Again, this is a turf horse working on the dirt, 5/8. He's just getting going. I mean, his best distance is a mile, obviously, and next year probably mile and 1/8, mile and 1/4.
Part of Future Stars Friday, Endlessly preparing for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, brought to you by Prevagen. We'll be back with more Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup right after this.
I'm Greg. I'm 68 years old. I do motivational speaking in addition to the substitute teaching. I honestly feel that that's my calling, to give back to younger people. I think most adults will start realizing that they don't recall things as quickly as they used to, or they don't remember things as vividly as they once did. I've been taking Prevagen for about 3 years now. People say to me periodically, man, you got a memory like an elephant. It's really, really helped me tremendously.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
Hey there, it's Craig Carden, and the NBA is back. If you're choosing to bet on some NBA action this season, please make sure you do so responsibly. Remember, gambling should always be fun, social, and entertaining. If at any time you reach a point where it's not, then take a break or a timeout and look into the tools and the resources available to you and everybody by going to FanDuel.com/playwell.
FanDuel Casino has your chance at the #1 feeling, winning, which ranks even higher than the 18th best feeling, saving a kid from a well. 59 years later. Find the #1 feeling winning on FanDuel Casino Reward Machine. Free to play every day with a chance at a $2,000 top prize.
40 years ago, we were founded for thoroughbred racing. For 40 years, we've set the stage for the world to come and race. We've dedicated our lives to our sport, to witness the unforgettable, to reach the mountaintop, to win a championship that defines a legacy. Our love, our dedication, our passion, it runs deep.
All right, guys, we are following Michael McCarthy, who just watched his horse endlessly work. We have to sneak up on Michael. It's like trainers in the wild. He is talking right now, but I'm going to tap him. Michael McCarthy, can we interrupt you?
I guess so.
Thank you.
Seems like you already have.
I'm so sorry. Can you tell us what your thoughts were on Endlessly's work here?
That was very good. Similar to what we saw before the Zuma Beach down inside. I just wanted to get a nice solid work, come back happy. It looks like he did that 48 flat with a great gallop out.
Do you feel like putting them inside gives you a little bit more of a work than being on the outside?
I do. I just felt like for him, kind of gets him a little bit dialed in on race week.
And we've kind of been playing around with why trainers decide to work over the main track or the inside track when it's a turf horse. What were your thoughts?
I always work on the main track. Don't know why you'd work on the train track.
Sounds good to me. Appreciate the time like usual. Are you so excited it's Breeders' Cup? I'll be seeing you so much.
All week. Can't wait.
Guys, Michael McCarthy exuding energy here for this morning.
I'm telling you, I know where he gets it. He gets it from the guy he came up under, Todd Pletcher. Todd Pletcher's got a wicked, dry sense of humor, and Michael McCarthy has perfected it. And I love that explanation about why he put endlessly on the inside of the
Get a little more out of it. So you're a little more competitive when you're down on the inside, get a horse to the outside. Conversely, if you want an easier work, put him on the outside. But the differing points of view. We've heard Peter Erden running on the training track. It's a little tighter. Michael McCarthy, I don't know why you'd ever work on the training track.
Michelle Yu, great work. 1 minute she's on the backside, next she's on the front side. Michelle Yu taking us everywhere here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Okay, back out on the track, it is Prince of Monaco in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile for trainer Bob Baffert.
Yeah, I mean, a race that he's kind of dominated over the years, and Prince of Monaco has been dominating out here on the West Coast. Again, I mean, undefeated, just gone through the ranks. I like the progression in distance, 5, 6, 7 furlongs, winning the Del Mar Futurity, and now, like Tamara, he's stretching out around 2 turns for the first time, and his pedigree, he should have no issue with it.
He's by Speightstown out of the Medaglia d'Oro mare, Rainier, undefeated, 3 for 3 coming in. And most recently taking the Grade 1 Del Mar Futurity, a live look at Prince of Monaco. And we are very proud, as part of FanDuel US, to be sponsoring the Breeders' Cup Juvenile once again, also in conjunction with Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. Here is a look at Maj getting ready for the Breeders' Cup Mile.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. They've cut him back to a mile here. This is your Kentucky Derby winner, of course.
No.
Oh, Maj, sorry.
Yeah, Maj. Not Maj.
Not Maj,
We'll get to Maj later.
Yeah.
Right now it's Maj. Winner last time out of the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. Now, there is sometimes, when you look at a horse like Maj, she's a 3-year-old filly who takes one of the most significant races in that division for a lot of 3-year-old fillies on the turf. The Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup is their Breeders' Cup, but they've decided to bring Maj back here against the boys in the mile.
Yeah, and it was the right move. You and I were on the set there for the QE2, and the discussion was, would she go in the Fillet Mare Turf or come here for the mile? Automatically, we all just said, and obviously it was the right choice, that she should come in the mile. She's a very, aggressive filly. She was on her toes leading into the gate in a good way. I mean, she went gate to wire a 1.1 miles, and I think if she went the longer distance, it would be telling for her. I think she'd get a little tired late. So she is just a great moving filly, got high energy, and I love the way she's coming into this race.
Yeah, and trainer Saeed Ben Sarur, who was there that day at Keeneland, told us in advance how she runs in the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. They didn't necessarily have to win, would determine where they would go at the Breeders' Cup. So the goal was always to be at the Breeders' Cup, but the question would be, would you go to the Filly Mare Turf? Would you go to the mile? And the answer is they are preparing for the mile. And Maj out on the track.
Remember, she's a half to Modern Games, and is very like her in the way she's built and kind of, her level of activity and the distance that she runs. So Modern Games, of course, Breeders' Cup winner.
Maj, the daughter of Exceed and Excel out of the New Approach mare. Modern Ideals, a homebred for Godolphin. Arabian Knight preparing for the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. What a race he put on over Go Rocket Ride, his fellow 3-year-old, and the FanDuel Pacific Classic last time out. They were just a neck apart. But Arabian Knight, it's pretty simple. If he gets a clear lead, he's a factor. Do you think that they're going to just let him waltz out there in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic?
We say this a lot with Bob Baffert's runners. I mean, he's done it so many times in big races, of course. Medina Spirit in the Kentucky Derby would be one of the ones that come to name. And that, he was beaten by Go Rocket Ride in the Haskell, put that race under his belt, and then he comes back and turns the tables. But yeah, he likes to go to the front, and that's his game plan. That's Bob Baffert's game plan. He likes to run his competition into the ground.
Christina Blacker found Bob Baffert's golf cart, and now she found him.
Up here in the grandstand with Hall of Famer Bob Baffert. Bob, I've watched the last couple of works for Arabian Knight. Not many horses can make 7 furlongs in the morning look that easy. What are you seeing from him right now?
I think he's really just maturing, growing into himself, and he's learning to relax, and he's doing everything on his own, and so he's handling it well. He's a horse that's runs up near the lead, so we want to make sure that he's I think there's going to be a pretty good pace. There always is a hot pace in the Breeders' Cup in all the races, and so so I'm just giving him the best chance to be able to tackle that. So, but he's holding his weight. He looks healthy, and so we just one more little easy work, and then we'll be ready to go.
You've had a lot of success in the Breeders' Cup Classic with 3-year-olds. What does it take from a 3-year-old to be able to take on the best older horses in the world?
Well, I never got to run too many 4-year-olds because they were gone. There was whisked off to the stallion farm because they were worth so much money. But I think I think the 3-year-olds this time of year, they catch up with them unless they're just like a superstar like Flightline, So I think that they're all pretty even. I could have run defunded in this race, and he likes the track, but I just thought we're just freshening him up. If he would have had one of those winning your ends, I would have run him. But I feel pretty good about Arabian Knight. But you still, you have to break well, and you got to get the right kind of trip. Pace makes a race, so a lot of things can happen.
From a trainer's perspective, what is this last week like? What's kind of going through your mind just in general as you prepare in the final few days?
Well, it's sort of fun, and we're watching our horses. I think, the important works have already been, put in. We'll come back and give them another work, but it's not going to be that serious of drills for these horses. And just to keep them healthy, so many things can go, they get sick, they get their, so you're really, until I get the saddle on them, we're all on pins and needles, they're like kids, anything can happen. So we're just enjoy the moment at the same time, but it's exciting to me. I like sitting here and watching the different horses, European horses, we've seen the Japanese horses come out there, and I like to see the way how they do things, maybe we can learn something. They've become so prominent in racing, they're getting really tough. So I like to see different horses and different trainers. You get these European trainers, and can't wait till the Coolmore contingency comes in. I like watching them, and so it's fun because you get the best jockeys, the best trainers, the best horses. This is our Olympics. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, Bob, good luck. I do love that last point because I think any true horseman will tell you never stop learning, and it is so fun to watch all of the world come together right here at Santa Anita.
Yeah, and Bob Baffert is a fan of the game as much as he is as a participant who obviously holds a number of records. And I thought there was a great moment after the FanDuel Pacific Classic where he acknowledged how hard it was to beat Dick Mandela and Go Rocket Ride. He respects his fellow competitors, and it'll be nice to see Arabian Knight match up against Go Rocket Ride again, but then Archangelo coming in at the top of the 3-year-old division.
Yeah, and they're kind of all three of them are the later developing 3-year-olds, right? They didn't have a busy first half of the year, so it's paid out well, and looking forward to that matchup next Saturday.
All right, Arabian Knight, one of your contenders in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, Joaquin Jaime.
Well, guys, I just wanted to follow up on Go Rocket Ride. This 3-year-old's had 5 lifetime starts. He's never been worse than second. He got a Grade 1 victory 2 starts back when he won the TVG.com Haskell Stakes, and then a good second in his most recent start in the FanDuel Racing Pacific Classic, where he was only defeated in Eck. For those that missed it, he was scheduled to work today. He was warming up on the training track during the renovation break. He was scheduled to work at 7:45, but instead of working at 7:45 today, he was taken off the training track, and he was just walked back to the barn. So I came back and I just had a conversation with Hall of Fame trainer Richard Mandela, and he told me the reason for that is because Go Rocket Ride, he got a new pair of shoes yesterday. He was just shod yesterday, and he said that when the horse was training on the training track and as he was warming up, they just felt that his feet were a little tender. So that is the reason that they decided to go ahead and scrap the plans, not work him today, and bring him back to the barn, and they'll give him an additional 24 hours and work tomorrow. He said that is still going to be the plan. Hopefully he's going to be working tomorrow. 7 furlongs is going to be the scheduled distance for his morning workouts. But guys, that is the reason why they decided to alter plans, and Go Rocket Ride was not working today because he just got a new pair of shoes. He just got shod yesterday.
Okay, so look, trainers don't have this type of microscope on them on a regular basis.
Right.
Yes, there are the safety protocols that we talked about, but I'm talking about from a media perspective. There isn't a breakfast at the FanDuel Pacific Classic show where we'd be covering this very development.
Or a breakfast of the non-winners of one allowance race.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is this a big deal?
Well, I think it is. I mean, tomorrow will be more telling. I mean, it's never an ideal situation when you have to abort to work with a jockey on the shoe issue. But Richard Mandela, I mean, look, he pays close attention to horses' feet. I was stable next to him for many years, and he's part blacksmith, he's part trainer. So we'll see. It could be a minor issue. I'm assuming what my knowledge would be that they would soak this horse's feet for the next 24 hours. That's standard protocol. Just put the feet in a tub of Epsom salts and hot water, and that just takes any inflammation out. And horses can be a little tender after their shot, and that's why you shoe them, either right on top of the race again or 10 plus days out, so it gives the horses, their feet, the chance to calm down if there's any inflammation there.
Is this that much different than what White Abarrio just went through?
Probably not. I wouldn't think so. I mean, White Abarrio has glue-on shoes. It's a similar sort of situation, tender feet. I mean, it can be. I tell you my experience, and I can directly relate to it. When I was working for trainer Bill Mott, we had a horse called Asina who won the Ramona Handicap. It was a Grade 1 event at Del Mar. I was out here on my own, and she got shoes. She was lame 6 days before the race, and I called up Bill. Lame.
Wow.
I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, she was a 6 or 7. So I called up Bill. I said, we can't run. And he's like, well, what is it? I said, it's the horse's feet. She just got shot. I think she bruised her foot as well. He's like, well, just go ahead and soak her feet. So I hired somebody, the night watchman. We soaked her feet for 4 days straight in Epsom salts and put a poultice on, which draws out the inflammation. She ended up being 100% fine. She ran and won the race with Pat Day aboard. So, I mean, these issues, I think if there's any problem to have, tender feet are sometimes one of the easiest things. They're tricky, but they're the easiest things to recover from fairly quickly.
Well, the other part to this, we're running out of time. We are 7 days from tomorrow from the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic, so you can't have that schedule shifted too much.
No.
In the case of White Abarrio, they got to deal with that early, and now they're back
got the
on
work,
track.
and his work looked tremendous. In the situation with Go Rocket Ride, I think you could, push the work back maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 more days. I think 5 days out would be the tipping point for the workout.
We are in Arcadia, but the mayor of Saratoga is here. The amazing Casa Creed. Casa Creed has been coming back to the Breeders' Cup looking for that elusive win, and most importantly, with what he's done up at Saratoga this late in his career and consistently up there, this is what you don't see often in this sport. Casa Creed is truly a marvel.
No, he's unbelievable. I mean, he's 7 years old, 33 starts. He's won over $2.5 million, and with 9 wins. And I tell you what, he looks phenomenal. He's carries condition well. I like the fact, a little bit different this year. Bill Mott brings him in off a little bit of a layoff, the old man here at the age of 7. Last year, he had races in August. He ran at Keeneland and then came to the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Turf Sprint. I think, the mile is where he needs to be. He's kind of an in-between horse. I think a 1-turn mile is perfect for him, but I like the fact he's coming in fresh here. He's run well fresh in the past.
You and I know his owners, Lee and Jeffrey Einseidler, very well. 2 years ago, Lee Einseidler said to me, and again, think about it, he's a 5-year-old at the time. He goes, we cannot wait until they get back to Santa Anita. The Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint going down the hill, he's going to be great. And then he got the news about a year ago. They're not going down the hill, about 6.5. So he is one of those horses that is kind of a tweener.
Yeah.
At his best, he can be Grade 1 company at a mile on the turf. But the fact that he was trying to win the Jaipur for a 3rd consecutive time at 7 furlongs, that would have been the ideal distance for him. Do you think he can compete with, say, Europe's best at a mile on the grass?
I think it would be tough. I think it's going to be tough, when you're going up against some of the Europeans. When it's Paddington, it's probably going to be in the dirt mile. It's going to be very tough to try and beat him. But I mean, he's doing well. He looks tremendous. It's just unfortunate. I think he would have owned the Hillside Turf course.
Oh, it would have been.
He's tailor-made for it.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. But here he is once again, Casa Creed back at the Breeders' Cup. We've seen him in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. We've seen him at a mile in the Breeders' Cup. Can he break through with a Breeders' Cup win? He certainly is deserving. But it's been another phenomenal year for Casa Creed. Also in the Bill Mott barn, Back to defend his title in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Mile, it is Cody's Wish.
Yeah, and Cody's Wish coming off a nice win in the Vosper. The only kind of blip in his resume is the Whitney, where they tried to stretch him out. He didn't see out the 9 furlongs. He's clearly, a better one-turn horse. So
how do you regroup after that? It was the right move, because you have to, especially with the way the handicap division was playing out, no one was asserting themselves. Right. But how do you regroup? Okay, you wanted to take this shot and then maybe get on the path to the Classic, and now you're back here at a mile.
I'm fine with that, because he's proven he came right back in the Vosper. He didn't beat a whole lot that day in the Vosper, but it was good to see him come back off that disappointing effort in the Whitney. Although it wasn't that disappointing. I mean, White Abarrio won that race, Zandon in there second, and Cody's Wish. Look at him here. I mean, he is feeling his oats here. I mean, he's absolutely wanting to go about his business here.
And last year he rallied from 12 lengths back to win by a head in the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile over Cyberknife. And the young gentleman that he was named after was there, Cody. And we expect him again at the races to cheer on this remarkable story, Cody's Wish. No bond like this has been seen in quite some time between, again, a person and a horse. And the Cody's Wish story was truly the highlight of last year's, Flightline was a great story by himself, but the story of Cody and Cody's Wish absolutely was the biggest story out of last year's Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, human story there. And I tell you what, this exercise rider absolutely earning his pay here. This is a precarious position he's in. You could see he got a short hold of him at the start of this gallop, because he knows he's going to be aggressive, and just puts his hands on his neck and doesn't move. I mean, one move here, if he lifts his hands up, moves them up the horse's neck, or just makes a false move, he's gone. I mean, this horse is absolutely sitting on go here. So that's a tough job for an exercise rider in the morning. That's a very strenuous workout right there, just hanging on to Cody's Wish.
Cody's Wish looking great out on the racetrack this morning here at Santa Anita. You're watching this on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Michelle?
I came back here to see White Abarrio, and Emily Ellingwood, the jockey, is out here. She's been partnering with him in the mornings, and I was told I could give him a peppermint, but there's so many rules about this horse, Emily.
Yeah, he doesn't really like his face touched unless you are very gentle. But he prefers a cookie first, and then sometimes you can pet him, but most of the time you just got to let him do his own thing.
Tell us about the relationship you two have forged in the couple of weeks that he's been here.
Honestly, he's a really cool horse to ride. I kind of just let him do his thing. He tells me what he wants to do, and he pretty much trains himself. So I just try to keep him happy and spoil him with cookies, and hopefully it'll pay off on race day.
Tell us a little bit about the work today, because you told me coming off the track that was one of the best works you've ever had on a horse.
Yes, we started off easy and we finished really strong down the lane. I asked him and he gave me a little bit more every time I asked, so I'm very happy with his work. He really wants a cookie right now. And I had a hard time pulling him up, but no, I'm very impressed with his work today, and I'm happy to see what he does on race day.
What's his favorite type of cookie here, just in case his fans want to send him some?
I probably fed him about 20 today.
All right, peppermints and cookies for White Abarrio, who has cooled out perfectly after his drill this morning with Emily Ellingwood aboard.
I think I just met my spirit animal. Peppermints and cookies, well done. White Abarrio, thriving. And it's always fascinated me when you have an out-of-town horse who the trainer decides where he decides to go and who he employs, who's based out here. Emily Ellingwood, that's a big opportunity for her.
Yeah, it is. I mean, to work horses for him, and I thought that horse worked exceptionally well. I thought, White, knowing what we know about his history with the feet and missing workouts, he looked tremendous this morning.
Speaking of traveling, all the way in from Japan is Dermotagaki, but he's actually been in the United States for a little while. The last time we saw him was in the Kentucky Derby. He was here and ultimately ended up finishing 6th in that field of 18. He is back in the United States, out on the track this morning at Santa Anita, and had a chance to follow him on social media. And he was rolling around on the backside here at Santa Anita in a playful manner. He certainly loves it here in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he ran a respectable race in the Kentucky Derby coming from so far back. I think he's got to improve a little bit. Of course, his coming out party was in the UAE Derby when he won that Grade 2 event on the Dubai World Cup undercard. But he's got to step up here, and I think one of the bigger problems he's got is his fellow countryman in Ushba Tesoro. I mean, I don't think he's quite as good as him.
He's a son of Mind Your Biscuits out of the Neo Universe mare Amor Posei, bred in Japan by the legendary Shadai Farm. It is Dermotagaki trying to pull off a significant upset in the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. We'll be back with more from Santa Anita. It's breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. More in just a moment.
The Factor, a perennial leading sire of winners. He was third in the nation by winners in 2021 and 2022. His progeny include Grade 1 winners Sistron and Noted and Quoted, Grade 2 winner Charmaine's Mia, and Millionaires Bound for Nowhere. And factor this, with dozens of six-figure yearling sales, he's a proven sire on the track and in the sales ring. The Factor, standing at Lane's End.
Hey there, it's Craig Carden. I know I can't believe it either, but the World Series is officially here. So if you're choosing to make a wager on the series this year, please be sure to do so responsibly. Gambling should always be fun, social, and entertaining. If at any time you reach a point where it's not all three, take a break, take a breath. Go to FanDuel.com/playwell. Go there right now. Run. Go there and learn more.
Hey, so I found a betting system that's really working great for me.
So did I. What's yours?
I set up an hour-a-week time limit on FanDuel. I can also set up wager limits, so I only bet what I can afford, and betting stays fun.
Right.
So what's your system?
What's that?
Your system. What's your system? What is that?
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours.
All Beholder, she hugs the rail and goes for home. Whip is coming out now though on Beholder, put away, tries to hold on. Here's Executive Privilege. Beholder and Executive Privilege coming through the stretch together. Beholder and Garrett Gomez. Executive Privilege and Raphael beyond. Are they starting to shift ground? It's Beholder on the inside holding on. Beholder's going to go all the way. And Beholder and Garrett Gomez have won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile finish.
A reminder of so much greatness there. It is 11 years on. One, the amazing Beholder who would come back for more, win the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff. But I think a lot of people forgot the late Garrett Gomez was her rider when she took the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies.
Yeah, it was a poignant moment there. And in the winner's circle, the late B. Wayne Hughes of Spendthrift Farms.
That's right.
So a lot has happened since Beholder winning at the Breeders' Cup. And here is her foal, her baby, Tamara, who's going to be, like I said, one of the shortest priced horses over the 2 days here for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies for Richard Mandela.
Yeah, Future Stars Friday on Friday, November 3rd, and this is without a doubt the biggest star. Everybody wants to see what Tamara can do around 2 turns. The daughter of Bolt Doro out of the Henny Hughes mare. Again, Beholder, whom we got so many thrills from in her career. One of the great race mares of recent time. And so with the performances we've seen from Tamara, look, it was just a stroll in the Del Mar debutante. But the trouble she overcame in her debut from the rail at Del Mar was an indication that she was special.
Yeah, I mean, that's talent. You don't have those issues breaking from the inside and get up and win like she did. I mean, if she'd finished third that day, you'd say, what a great effort, huge performance. But, you know, talent can go a long way, and good horses overcome things that aren't going their way, and that's exactly what happened to her in her debut.
So it was an interesting route that Dick Mandella decided to pass on the Chandelier and that opportunity to go around 2 turns and essentially go from the 1-turn Del Mar debutante. Now her first 2-turn race will be in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. What do you think about what she's been doing since the Del Mar debutante?
I think it was the right move. I haven't talked to Dick Mandella, but she debuted on August 19th, came back and won a Grade 1 on September 9th. Quick turnaround. If you then go to the Chandelier, that's a lot of races in a short period of time. Love this move. That's the difference between a rookie mistake, in my idea, and a veteran, trainer making the right move going into this race, giving that horse time.
And she also had an opportunity to go to the starting gate earlier, as we watch Tamara right now. But what are we trying to accomplish here with Tamara?
Just taking her back to the gate here. She's on the right-hand side. They're just standing and schooling, just getting her comfortable once again, a little refresher. Nothing out of the norm here. She'll just stand.
So what about this starting gate itself? It's obviously not one they're using in the afternoon. You've only got 4 stalls. Does every racetrack have a starting gate like that for schooling?
Or they use the main gate. There's 2 gates here, of course. They use the main gate for breaking horses out of this schooling gate of the chute there. So not all racetracks have 2 starting gates. Some of the bigger ones do. But look, she stood in there perfectly, and I would probably not going to go back. Maybe go back one more time if he deems necessary. But just the repetition, getting her comfortable in that starting gate, just taking her back there after being away from the races for so long.
All eyes on Tamara, as Simon said, probably one of the shortest price favorites of the 2 days of championship racing here at Santa Anita, and she deserves all of the praise. Archangelo has been here for a few weeks. Trainer Jenna Antonucci making the decision to come out early. She's been here along with Archangelo as well, and now she's with Michelle Yu.
Thanks, Todd. Jenna, talking about coming out here a little bit earlier with Arcangelo, are you happy with the decision that you guys made?
Absolutely. I think it just gave him a chance to settle in out here, different everything, so it was to give him the space he needed to just really settle into it all.
Speaking of space, you guys got him a nice turnout, which the rest of us here at Santa Anita don't have. I feel like there's a line waiting to use it now. Has he been so happy with his turnout, and why was that important to you?
It's just part of his routine. It's been since the very beginning, and he has to have that space to just roll and be his, in his own element and do what he does. So hopefully it'll stay up for all the horsemen out here, and they get to use it a lot.
When you say his routine, and you only have one horse out here, did you let him dictate, this is what time we're going to go out every day, rather than, hey, let's get out here and be done early?
He pretty much dictates everything in our life, so that would be a fair statement.
And we saw him out there today. What were your thoughts?
Just an easy jog, obviously coming out of his breeds and such, so it's very normal for us just to have a couple easy hack days and let him just go move around and see the world.
And what's going to be his schedule like from now till Breeders' Cup?
Pretty easy. We've done all of our heavy lifting at this point, so just having a fresh, happy, healthy, bouncing pony going into the race will be our focus.
All right. Appreciate the time, and he looks great like usual.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Guys?
I mean, truly, just so charming and so talented. Jenna Antonucci, the world was introduced to her, as we said, after that Belmont win, and it was her statements that she said in that moment that showed how genuine she is and what a great horsewoman she is and just a quality human being. So many people are rooting for her and Arcangelo. Great follow on social media as well. And when you think of what's on the line, yes, if he wins, he's Horse of the Year. But let's say a 3-year-old doesn't win. Wherever these horses finish, Go Rocket Ride, Arabian Knight, and Mage, and Arcangelo, that could determine who's the 3-year-old champion.
Yeah, it's a race within the race, right? I mean, even if one of them doesn't win the Classic, there's a race going on between the 3-year-olds. But I've been extremely impressed with Jenna Antonucci. I mean, nobody on a national scale knew of her 6 months ago, and she's handled herself well. I mean, she says the right things, and you can tell, it comes through in her interviews, just how passionate she is about her horses and how she cares for them. She's done a tremendous job managing this horse. $35,000 purchase. We're used to seeing on big names, big trainers with $1 million yearlings. This is just from humble beginnings. She's done a tremendous job with this horse.
Yeah, and she's an ambassador for our sport.
Yes.
If you followed her over the summer at Saratoga, taking time to talk to kids and giving them a chance to see her operation up close. Daily Race Reform picked a very good brand ambassador. Okay, Michelle, you were talking about the pen just a moment ago with Jenna. Explain this a little bit more.
Yeah, so the pen is just a place the horses are able to be turned out. A lot of racehorses, especially in Southern California, don't get the opportunity to be not attached to a human when they're outside of their stall, just because we don't have a lot of space here. But Arcangelo did get this pen built for him, as you can see by our demo horse. There's plenty of room for him to kind of run around, to have a roll. Several trainers have big sand pits at their barns for horses to roll in, because horses really enjoy that after a work or a gallop. And, you know, having it with walls means they don't have to be attached. So if they feel happy after they're done rolling, they can get up and they can kick their heels and buck around a little bit and play. You can see that the solid walls have like a smaller mesh so that a horse can't get their legs through it or whatnot. And they really enjoy opportunities like this. So I'm pleased that Jenna was able to get one of these at Santa Anita for Arcangelo. And if you see, it is super deep in sand. I mean, we're talking about probably a 10-inch sand base for these horses to come lay in, roll in, and it is big enough if they wanted to run around in it, they could.
Excellent explanation, Michelle. And let's show you the practical use here. Archangelo, and this is what we were talking about. Again, if you don't follow Jenna Antonucci on X, formerly known as Twitter, you should. But again, horses, you know, we take for granted. We just watch their past performances in that one race. There's so much leading up to the race, and part of it is just the mental getaway from the training and the rigors of it. And these round pens give them a chance to just kind of let loose.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, she got special dispensation. Look, all the trainers here would love it, but obviously you see the size of that thing. You can't put 200 of those things on the backside. So, you know, it's important because he's used to this. They're very prevalent on the East Coast, especially at all these training centers. You know, Palm Beach Downs, Payson Park. I mean, Bill Mott's been doing this going back 25 years when I worked for him. Even at Belmont Park, we used to rotate the horses in and out of there after workout. So, you know, it was important that he got the round pen out here because he's used to it back home. Horses are creatures of habit. You do not want to change their habits and their routines because they feel uncomfortable with that. So, yeah, good observation there.
Kate Hunter, who represents the Japan Racing Association, is associated with all the horses that came over here. She had a great picture of Dermotagaki, who didn't have a pen. He just found a patch of grass on the backside and started rolling around on that. Magnificent to see these champions up close. Christina Blacker, where are you?
Hey guys, you were talking a little bit about the downhill turf course. I am here, and now we will not be able to use it for the turf sprint. We will use a portion of this course for the filly and mare turf. Let's take a little tour, actually. So the actual downhill course, if you were sprinting, is just up to our left here, and this is where they would originally take that right-handed turn before going back towards the left and hitting the crossover and then joining up with the course proper. But one of the most unique things about the filly and mare turf is that it can be run at different distances depending on the host venue. If you think about it, last year at Keeneland, we ran it at the 1 3/16. Back in 2017 at Del Mar, it was run at the 1 1/8 distance. Now here at Santa Anita, we run at the 1 1/4, and we start pretty much right where you're looking. We start on a portion of the hill here, and they actually go downhill for a little while before crossing over and joining up with the main course. For that reason, it's a bit of a soft 1 1/4, if that makes any sense, because they are going downhill for a bit. So if you have a horse that might have some distance limitations, you might question the distance a little bit, they will get that 1 1/4 here at Santa Anita. A horse like Day at the Spa comes to mind for Chad Brown several years ago, and maybe this year a horse like an Italian from his barn comes to mind. Remember last year at the 1 3/16 distance at Keeneland, she was ahead until the last 3 or 4 jumps and then was caught. This would be a course where that will definitely assist a horse like her. And speaking of Chad Brown, he's the only American to have won it in the last 11 years. He's won it 4 times overall. The Europeans certainly have dominated the filly and mare turf and a lot of the turf races in general, but a unique course here at Santa Anita, and as you saw, the turf course could not be in better condition. It's been sunny. We've had plenty of warm weather. We've had a consistently firm turf course, but quite a bit of a little fluff if you look down below. It feels great up here. We get that morning marine layer, and the turf course looks fantastic. We'll send it back to you.
These boots are made for walking, and you use them well, Christina. I love the uniqueness of the downhill turf course here at Santa Anita. There's nothing like it in America.
Yeah, it's very unique. I mean, we're just so used to the kind of mundane oval. It just adds a little more intrigue into the races.
Let's head to Lexington, Kentucky. Earlier today at Keeneland Racecourse, preparing for the mile on the turf, it was more than looks. A winner of the Jefferson Cup last time out for trainer Cherie DeVoe. And after that win, again, restricted to 3-year-olds, I was there with Matt Bernier. Everyone agreed it was a breakthrough performance, one that might be good enough to vault this 3-year-old against older horses and the best that Europe brings over here and win.
I mean, he's almost undefeated at a distance on the turf. The only 2 defeats were when the ground was good. So maybe that, looking at the past performances, that had something to do with the Saratoga, the effort in the Hall of Fame, and at Keeneland and any other than, he barely just got beat there. But this was earlier today. 4 furlongs, 49-1. Cherie DeVoe, not one to work her horses that fast in the morning, but this is a horse that can giddy up a little bit. I mean, you see the workouts, bullet workouts. The pattern, she never works this horse more than half a mile, and you can see why. He's probably a little aggressive in company. You don't want him to do too much, so a half mile with a good gallop out will achieve what they want to do here.
And prior to that win in the Jefferson Cup, this horse worked 6 days before an easy half mile at Keeneland in 48-4. So this is, when we're talking about Jen Antonucci and bringing out Arcangelo early, you're getting a different look at a different approach here. Cherie DeVoe is going to get the last major work for more than looks back at their home base, or right now their base, and then eventually get out here to California.
Yeah, because this is a turf race, right? And the horses don't get to work over the grass here, so there's no real advantage to working out here at Santa Anita. I would say it's a disadvantage for a turf horse. Personally, if I was training a turf horse, I would rather them work at the track they're familiar with than have any last-minute changes, because it's just not an ideal situation. So for a turf horse, work at your home base. You're going to run on the grass, which you can't work on, so get all your work done at home.
The son of More Than Ready out of the Harlan's Holiday Mare, Ladies Privilege, More Than Looks, getting ready for the mile on the turf. Trainer Todd Pletcher has brought some horses out here early, but he's also got some horses at Keeneland. And so we're going to take a look at a couple of horses that he has in the juvenile divisions. Again, this is earlier today out at Keeneland.
Yeah, Candida and Scalable, who ran out here, has been out here for trainer Todd Pletcher and Mike Rapoli. Candid on the inside, who's coming off a win in the Alcibiades, and Scalable on the outside, who was second in the Chandelier behind Chatelass. So look, we've seen, 400 Pletcher workouts over the years on Breakfast of the Breeders' Cup. And if you put 380 of them next to each other, they would all look like this for the most part. This is his MO. You saw it with his former assistant, Michael McCarthy, did the same thing with Endlessly. They work together, they work in company, usually 4 furlongs, 49, 5/8 in a minute, 101. And this is his program. This is what he likes to do.
Candide, owned by Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, who've had another phenomenal year, and they have a chance to pull off a rare double, take both the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. And then Scalable, owned by Rapoli Stable, who's been in the news lately with the National Thoroughbred Alliance now launching. And Scalable, representing Rapoli Stable, was second in the Chandelier, as you mentioned, last time out, to Chatelass. Again, a winner locally, but Scalable and Candide working this morning earlier at Keeneland. Let's take a look at Noted for the juvenile turf. And as we said, we have 2 2-year-olds going different directions for the Pletcher barn here, working out this morning.
Yeah, Noted for the juvenile turf for trainer Todd Pletcher, was second in the Bourbon. And Fierceness, another Mike Rapoli runner. Look, Maiden was very, very impressive. Won by 11 lengths, beating a bunch of next out winners in that Maiden special weight. And then just too bad to be true in the Champagne over a sloppy racetrack at 55 cents on the dollar as the favorite. And I'm willing to forgive that. Like I always say, I'd rather those terrible performances than ones where you're second beaten 3 parts of a length and you're like, oh, maybe we're just not good enough. Fierceness, it was just put a line through that last race.
I feel like I'm watching twins out here. It's like you said.
So
yeah.
on repeat.
Yeah,
rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat.
Everything the same. Everything
it's been very, very successful. and trying to build good habits with young horses. And here's two more prospects from the Todd Pletcher barn early this morning at Keeneland. Noted and fierceness, preparing for Future Stars Friday, November 3rd, here at Santa Anita. Catching up with trainer Todd Pletcher afterward in Lexington, Kentucky, Scott Hazelton.
Todd Pletcher with a very busy morning getting ready for the Breeders' Cup. All 12 Breeders' Cup contenders training here at Keeneland Racecourse. What led you to bring them all here? We know you had some here that have done well during this meet, but what led you to bring them here on their way to the West Coast?
Well, you know, looking at it, we had 3 really good performances on the big prep weekend here, winning the 2 two-year-old races and up to the mark, winning the Coolmore Mile. So they were already here. So I just felt like, you know, it doesn't make sense to take them back to New York and then come back to California. So I thought the easiest thing to do was to kind of bring everyone here and prepare from here. I think the surface here is really, really good. Been happy with that, and just felt like, you know, having everyone together so that we could kind of supervise their training leading up to it was the best move.
Overall, this group that you bring into the Breeders' Cup, how would you sum it up to the large groups that you've brought into Breeders' Cups in the past, Todd?
It's pretty strong. You know, I think our juveniles have been performing really well and continue to improve. So, you know, we're excited about that, and to have a horse like Up to the Mark that has won 3 Grade 1s leading into it, a horse like Bright Future who's improving. You know, all of these horses are, like everyone else, going to have to run the best races of their careers. But, you know, we feel like we're coming into it in good order.
We look forward to seeing them out there on the West Coast, and safe travels, good luck, and great having you here at Keeneland to prep.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the horses he mentioned there, Up to the Mark, was brilliant in the mile at Keeneland. And now I believe if Up to the Mark, because they're going to go to the Breeders' Cup Turf,
correct,
if he wins that race and we see something different in the Classic, like a horse shipping in and winning, or maybe a horse with a thin resume winning, Up to the Mark could be Horse of the Year.
Yeah, when it's not a horse that wins the Classic, it seems over the years it defaults to like the turf division, right?
Yeah, well, you remember Manila and Lady Secret in the talk there? Like,
yeah.
Okay, you're going to name a distaff horse Horse of the Year, but then there was the case for Manila. I just think Up to the Mark is in the right year when you look at his resume, and if he were to pull off another Grade 1 win, but be it the Breeders' Cup Turf, that's a resume. He's absolutely a finalist for Horse of the Year, but he can win the whole thing.
Yeah, no question about that. And I like what Pletcher said, the reason he didn't come out of California here, another reason, more logistics more than anything. So, yeah.
What a showdown it's going to be in so many divisions for the Breeders' Cup. In between, before we get to the 2 championship days of racing, well, of course, there's Halloween. And, there's candy searching here at the racetrack with Michelle Yu.
I'm over at the Phil D'Amato barn, and he has a whole Halloween setup. Let's see who comes trick-or-treating with us. It's Gold Phoenix. Trick-or-treat. Would you like a carrot or a mint? Which does he prefer here?
He's a carrot dude. Some of them are...
Oh, that was a little big. Look, I'm trying to give him a mint, but...
He might chew it around and spit it out.
He's taking it because he feels bad for me. Yeah, okay, so carrots for sure. You told me his nickname is Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Or GFP, but yeah, he thinks he's a big 1,000-pound lab puppy. He wants to play, especially when he's feeling good, and goof around, except he doesn't realize that he is quite a big boy. So unfortunately, him playing can get a little interesting, but he's just a really happy horse. He loves people, he loves attention. And like I said, he thinks, you know, if you think about what having a lab puppy around the house is, you know, that's kind of what he's like. He can get into some mischief. Nothing's ever mean-spirited. He's just a big, goofy dude that enjoys life and enjoys playing around.
Now, I gotta say, though, I thought he would be, like, devouring my treats. He doesn't like my treat basket as much.
We're a mix. Sherry's gotten a lot of horses on the mints the past couple of weeks, but through and through, we're a carrot barn. But so he'll go at these all day, and maybe some apples.
All right. He didn't like my carrot as much, but
we did have apples and carrots in here before, and then Sherry filled it up with all mints.
Well, thank you for visiting on the Breeders' Cup Breakfast Show, and trick or treat to you. Are you going to dress up for Halloween? Could you put a costume on him? If it wasn't Breeders' Cup, would you wear a costume?
He could probably wear a costume. He'd play around with something. What do you think? You want to wear something when you work tomorrow, buddy?
Oh my gosh. All right. Gold Phoenix going to be working tomorrow, but today it's all about the candy. See, now he wants it.
He wants to try and figure it out.
There you go. Have a mint.
Are you going to spit it out again?
If he does, that's okay. We can edit it. Gold Phoenix, the Clifford, the big red dog, the playful puppy of the Breeders' Cup, guys.
Simon, what are you dressing up for Halloween this year?
Yeah, I'm not big into costumes. I'm not.
You're not a big costume?
No.
When's the last time you dressed up for Halloween?
A long time ago, probably about 10 years ago. I think I'll go as a FanDuel TV announcer is what I'm going to do. Yeah,
so you're definitely playing pretend.
Exactly. Yeah.
It gets real on Monday. It is the draw show. We're going to find out the post positions for all the championship races for 2 championship days of racing, and you could be there. There are tickets available.
There are still? Great.
Well, you're going to be there.
Well, I'm here.
Yeah.
We're here. Mike's going to be at the Pasadena, what is it, Civic
Auditorium.
Michael Jackson?
I think that's where Michael Jackson first moonwalked on that Motown anniversary show. I know it was in Pasadena. I thought it was the Civic Auditorium. A lot of history there. We're going to make history again, this time with the Breeders' Cup draw for the 2023 Breeders' Cup, the 40th edition. If you can't be there, you got the next best thing, watching us here with our draw show. Again, that is Monday, October 30th, 4:30 local time, 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30 on the East Coast. And again, with that special venue, there are tickets available to the draw. Find out more. And we've got tickets available to the Breeders' Cup itself, breederscup.com. Tickets. A beautiful look out at the San Gabriel Mountains, shrouded in a little bit of fog this morning. We'll be back with more breakfast at the Breeders' Cup right after this.
Catholic Boy, a Grade 1 winner on both dirt and turf, including this romp in the Run Happy Travers Stakes.
He's so impressive today, the others didn't even have a prayer!
This 6-time graded stakes winner was the fastest 3-year-old of his crop over 10 furlongs. Now his first runners are hitting the track. Dual Surface Grade 1 winner Catholic Boy, standing at Claiborne Farm.
With FanDuel, every night is a watch party. New customers bet $5 to get $150 bonus if your team wins. Bet all the stars with all your friends and tell them that they get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us with any $5 bet. Only on FanDuel. New customers bet $5 get $150 bonus if your team wins, plus NBA League Pass on us.
And the stage is set. Bright Work will make Ways and Means work. She is running on strongly. Ways and Means still a length back second. These two are dominating. Bright Work is a superstar.
A man, his tractor, and his family. These are the Upshaws. Though he goes by Shaw, which stands for skilled hands at work. From cutting hair and mowing grass to roasting marshmallows, he's got a grasp on what matters most. There's a story in every piece of land. Run with us on a John Deere tractor and start telling yours. John Deere is the official partner of the Breeders' Cup World Championships.
Looking to give your handicapping game a sharper focus? RaceLens is the most in-depth product in horse racing, with unique features found nowhere else. Customized PPs, summary and individual research, handicapping angles and backtesting, true odds predictive analysis, and pace projection. With innovative analytics powered by data from Equibase, it will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level. RaceLens, bringing clarity to handicapping. Learn more at equibase.com/racelens.
I'm Mark, and I live in Vero Beach, Florida. My wife and I have 3 children. Ruth Ann and I like to hike. We eat healthy, we exercise. I noticed I wasn't as sharp as I used to be. My wife introduced me to Prevagen. So I said, yeah, I'll try it out. I noticed that I felt sharper. I felt like I was able to respond to things quicker. And I thought, yeah, it works for me.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
By the time we saw Arazi in the 1991 Breeders' Cup Juvenile, we had already seen enough evidence in the Breeders' Cup of Europeans trying to run on dirt to be skeptical. And all week long at Churchill Downs, all the European media was talking about was Arazi this, Arazi that. He's undefeated. He's a superstar. He's going to win the Breeders' Cup. And we just all kind of laughed, right? And then when they broke out of the gates and Arazi drops back to last in a distant last, we were just kind of laughing. Oh, here's the superstar. Here's the big Arazi. Right? He's already 15 lengths back, and they haven't even made it to the backstretch yet.
And Arazi, the European star, is a dozen lengths from the front.
And then suddenly there's this blur running through horses and then running around the outside of horses.
Arazi hits his best stride, and there goes the European star Arazi, and he's coming with a menacing rush to Bertrando.
It was the single most electrifying move I have seen to this day. He was going so fast.
And Arazi runs right by him.
It shocked Tom Durkin, who was calling the race, going so fast. Centrifugal force took him out to the middle of the track. He couldn't even stay in, close to the other horses, and draws off and wins.
Here indeed is a superstar. Arazi, absolutely brilliant. He was taken under a hard hold to win it here by 5, and he could have won by 10 perhaps.
That was a truly memorable moment in the Breeders' Cup.
Absolutely sensational.
More memories coming up in the 40th edition of the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Randy Moss with a great remembrance there.
That was unbelievable.
And people to this day still say, oh, that's an Arazi-like move. He came back as the favorite in the Kentucky Derby. Wasn't the same horse, didn't develop the way everyone expected. Lily T ended up winning that year in an upset. But that one performance we'll remember always here at the Breeders' Cup, that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Arazi-like move.
Yeah, it's been a patented phrase that we've used on so many horses that have had a move similar to that. And I would probably say that's in the top 3 Breeders' Cup performances of all time, I would think. Maybe in the top 2.
Patrick Valenzuela aboard. Didn't he get a nice gift out of that race?
Yeah, got a brand new car after that race.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Nothing like riding for Mr. Balson. Okay, back to this year's Breeders' Cup World Championships, and Churchill Downs is where we're going to head next, out in Louisville. And this is earlier. Timberlake out for trainer Brad Cox, and cry me a river here, Simon.
Yeah.
With Timberlake. Last time out, had to run over a river, a sloppy racetrack, Belmont at Aqueduct in the Champagne.
Yes, I mean, what do you do with this performance? It was a good one in the Champagne, but it was on a sloppy racetrack. And as I always say, what do you get? Exaggerated speed figure, exaggerated win margin, some horses that don't perform well. So you have to take that performance with a grain of salt and maybe go back to, his effort in the Hopeful, which was pretty good. Nutella Fella. Again, Brad Cox, we're talking about the way Todd Pletcher works. Brad Cox pretty much has a program here. 5/8 in company, easy work on the bridle. Lots to like about this move. Is he good enough? We'll find out.
Timberlake, a son of Into Mischief out of the Looking at Lucky Mare pinup, bred by St. Elias Stable, owned by Windstar Farm and Sienna Farm. Kate and Bradar has been busy this morning at Louisville, catching up with all the trainers in their major workouts in various divisions. She was able to talk to trainer Brad Cox.
The first Brad Cox, Breeders' Cup bound horses breezed this morning. Timberlake worked in company. What were you looking for? What was the goal of the workout?
Obviously, good work. We wanted to give him some company. Obviously had a good workmate in Interstate Daydream. She's a good work horse on her own. She's going to run next week in the Turn Back the Alarm. But just for him to kind of set off of her another horse and just get him to relax. He did it very well around the turn. They finished up head down the lane. It was a really good move. I had him 59 and change, and good gallop out as well.
2-year-olds can change really quickly. What type of development are you seeing in him? What type of changes, if anything?
The ability to relax. He's a big horse, strong horse, but he's listening to his rider. He's responding when the rider wants him to do things, and ultimately that's what good horses do, and just super happy with what we've seen from him since the Champagne.
And has he been a 2-year-old that you always had your eye on as maybe being special?
Yep, very from the get-go. Blake, my son, had him over at Keeneland, and he called me after his first 3 races. He said, "This horse is going to win the whole full." I said, "You're close. Run second." But he's a big, strong horse. Winstar liked him when they sent him in, and he's been good from the start.
Wish you the best luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What was the final count there? Like 12 horses going to the Breeders' Cup for Brad Cox. I mean, every weekend that we had a win-in-your-in weekend, he was winning a race and getting a horse into various divisions.
Well, no question. I mean, he's just absolutely exploded in the last, 7 or 8 years, come to national forefront. Todd leads, Pletcher leads all trainers with Breeders' Cup entries domestically with 12, Chad with 10, so see how that plays out.
3-year-old filly division, Pretty Mischievous had herself a year, taking the Kentucky Oaks to the defining race early in the season for 3-year-old fillies, and Pretty Mischievous was out at Churchill Downs earlier today. And, when you take a look at the job that Brendan Walsh has done, and I know Matt Bernier was echoing this on our afternoon coverage at Keeneland, makes the most of every horse that he gets.
Look, I was in the paddock about 5 days before the Kentucky Oaks, and this filly was scored. And we always hear, how do they look? They look good. This horse looks good. There was not a horse in the last couple of years that stood out to me before a race than Pretty Mischievous before the Kentucky Oaks. So much so that I was reporting that day, and I'm like, you know what, guys, I need to ask Brendan Walsh about this horse. And he tipped his hand and pretty much said she's going to run well. And then off camera he goes, "I'm telling you, I like her so much." And she justified the looks. I mean, she has been pretty much perfect the rest of the year. She got beat in the Cotillion last time out. Again, sloppy racetrack could have been the excuse. It was a heartbreaker. She is clearly the best 3-year-old dirt filly in the country.
Just talking about, physically horses that he's had. Maxfield was the same way. He was so imposing, and you couldn't take your eyes off of him. Pretty Mischievous, even though she got upset last time out in the Grade 1 Cotillion, probably going to win the Eclipse Award no matter what happens in the distaff amongst the 3-year-old fillies. Catching up with her trainer afterwards, Kaiten Bradar.
Kentucky Oaks winner Pretty Mischievous getting in her final Breeders' Cup preparations this morning at Churchill. Brendan, what were you looking for? What did you see?
We were just looking that she's maintaining her good condition and her good form. Kaiten, listen, she's as fit as, if she's not fit, they're all in trouble. She's had a busy year, but she seems like she's in as good an order as ever. And she did a nice work, nothing fancy, just nice and even the whole way. Nice gallop out, so we're happy enough with it.
What will the rest of the way look like for her?
It'll be quiet enough now. We'll just jog her tomorrow and just gallop her along until she flies out on Monday. We'll train her here Monday morning before she goes and train her away once she gets out there. But, all the heavy lifting's done now. Just try and get her there in the best shape possible.
She was a little under the radar when she came into the Kentucky Oaks for that huge performance. I'm wondering where she's at now and how you're feeling just confidence-wise going into what arguably looks like the toughest test for her to date.
Yeah, I think she's going into it probably in a similar fashion. I think the before the Kentucky Oaks, she got beat in the Fairgrounds Oaks, and look, taking nothing away from the winner, I think we were learning about her at the time, and things just didn't go quite according to plan. If she had won the Fairgrounds Oaks, I'm sure she would have been maybe favourite for the Kentucky Oaks, but it's similar here. But the last day, I feel like she didn't really handle the slop at all at Parks. The early part of the race, she didn't look like she handled it at all, and I think it was just due to her class and her talent that she actually got back and finished a good second. So hopefully, we're pretty confident we'll have a good dry track out there, and I think she's sitting on a very good race.
Well, if she runs her A game as she did here in Louisville, they better look out. She's pretty special.
No, she's absolutely.
Best of luck, Brendan.
Thanks, Kaiten.
Pretty Mischievous, putting in those final preparations and now heading to Santa Anita with some confidence on the part of her connections.
Yeah, well-placed confidence. A 3-time Grade 1 winner this year. Pretty Mischievous, one of the stars in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Looking at the main track out here at Santa Anita. We'll be back with more Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup live from Arcadia, California, right after this.
clinch the Preakness by a length.
Disarm takes the mat win.
And Tima, they win the Bet Parks Pennsylvania Derbies.
Wicked Halo, who wins the Raven Run Stakes. Nobody catching Society.
Ring through one. Cyber Knight has one that has no over Tama, and Gunna in the forego.
Echo Zulu wins the Next Gen Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies.
Hey there, it's Craig Carton, and the NBA is back. If you're choosing to bet on some NBA action this season, please make sure you do so responsibly. Remember, gambling should always be fun, social, and entertaining. If at any time you reach a point where it's not, then take a break or a timeout and look into the tools and the resources available to you and everybody by going to FanDuel.com/playwell.
Hey, so I found a betting system that's really working great for me.
So did I. What's yours?
I set up an hour-a-week time limit on FanDuel. I can also set up wager limits, so I only bet what I can afford, and betting stays fun.
Right.
So what's your system?
What's that?
Your system. What's your system? What is that?
Every bettor has a system. Make FanDuel's responsible gaming tools a key part of yours.
It goes down in the DM.
With FanDuel, every night is a watch party. New customers bet $5 to get $150 bonus if your team wins. Bet all the stars with all your friends and tell them that they get 3 months of NBA League Pass on us with any $5 bet. Only on FanDuel. New customers bet $5, get $150 bonus if your team wins. Plus NBA League Pass on us.
Chase the day with Day Chaser Cocktails, the official ready-to-drink canned cocktail of Breeders' Cup.
Paddington, the blue and orange, is now being asked to deliver a challenge, but Chaldean giving generously inside the two has seen off Indestructible. But here comes Paddington, bearing down. The two Guineas winners collide. Paddington overtakes Chaldean, and Paddington takes the lead and goes away. Chaldean in second, Sharon is running on in third, but Paddington quite decisively has gone 2.5 lengths clear of Chaldean, and Paddington has done nothing but improve. The Irish Guineas winner comes right away to follow up in the St. James's Palace.
Welcome back to breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Christina Blacker, and I'm here by the quarantine barn where on Sunday we are expecting a shipment of horses in from Europe. Upwards of 40 runners will be arriving here to Santa Anita, but one horse will not be making the journey, and this is one of the biggest superstars in the game and one of the biggest horses that we were all really looking forward to seeing here in the States, and that is Paddington. It was announced just moments ago by Coolmore that Paddington has been retired, and this is owing in part due to an elevated temperature and a respiratory infection. Paddington won 6 straight races this season, including 4 in a row at the Group 1 level. He was also a fan favorite, of course, from his name and gained quite a following overseas in Europe. That Group 1 role began with a going-away victory in the Irish 2000 Guineas. He would follow that up with the St. James's Palace, the Eclipse, and the Sussex Stakes. And this from Aidan O'Brien, according to the release from Coolmore, he says, quote, "To do what he did takes a very special horse. In terms of his attitude and determination, he was very similar to Giant's Causeway, but Paddington was a much quicker horse. He had great tactical speed and could quicken off of it. He's a gorgeous horse, very good looking, very laid back." And that was from John Gosden, trainer of the Eclipse Stakes second place finisher, Emily Upjohn. So disappointed not to see Paddington here at the Breeders' Cup, but of course we look forward to seeing his offspring in years to come, and hopefully they will be Globetrotters that we get to see at the World Thoroughbred Championships. Todd?
Simon, so with Paddington, you know, you always talk about the depth of the Europeans in the Breeders' Cup Mile. With him now off that list,
that changes things a lot. Because I think he would have been a short price favorite there, despite his poor effort in the Queen Elizabeth. So, yeah, it opens it up. We were talking about Casa Creed earlier on. You know, I thought he was up against it with some of the Europeans. But, yeah, that certainly opens it up.
Latest breaking news surrounding the Breeders' Cup Mile, and as pointed out by Christina, one of the biggest stars of the 2 championship days of racing as far as the European stars, and that is Paddington, now officially retired. Officially, they're out on the racetrack, redoing the track right
Almost
about
finished,
now.
Track maintenance. They're just finishing up.
When is the last series of workouts normally at a track?
Well, it depends. I mean, the breaks change. They have a couple of breaks here at Santa Anita on a regular basis. They switch it around here, I think, for Breeders' Cup. But yeah, it's and some trainers like to go early, and some trainers like to go late, depending on the horse.
And someone who is all over and been doing a great job for us here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, Michelle Yu.
The boss is in town. Drew Fleming joining me now from Breeders' Cup. I don't see you on the backside a lot. Are you just taking in the sights and sounds?
Oh, yeah, speaking to trainers, owners. It's Breeders' Cup week. What a better place to be than Santa Anita.
Now, have you seen a lot of horses?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they're all out here. Horses are still coming in, and the world's best horses will be here very shortly.
Can you tell me who you like the best? I mean, I know I've been standing here right now. We've seen like 10 Breeders' horses walk by in the last few minutes.
Well, that's the best part about the Breeders' Cup. They're all the best. And there's so many great horses that are going to be here. We're so thrilled with the pre-entries, international participation at an all-time high. It's going to be a great week of racing.
Now, Drew, I know you want to stay kind of level, but do you have a race in particular you're looking forward to because of a matchup or a certain horse?
Well, I mean, there's so many great races this year. Obviously the Classic is our hallmark race, and it's hopefully going to be packed with like really, really good horses. Always love the Turf, the Mile, the Dirt Mile, the Distaff. I mean, you name it. We have 14 really good races filled with the best horses in the world.
How do you feel about bringing it back to Santa Anita for a record 11th time?
Oh, I mean, look at it. Everybody's here. The vibe is awesome. Love Santa Anita. It's a wonderful facility, a great racetrack, and we're so excited and honored to be back.
We're looking forward to it 1 week out, Drew.
Thank you so much. We are too.
Guys?
I think that was an LA Country Club logo on his vest there. Yeah. I would love that connection. But it's true, when you look at this venue, there was talk for a time, and they did actually host the Breeders' Cup 3 years in a row at one point, but there was talk about making Santa Anita the permanent home. It really does have everything. Now, the spirit of the Breeders' Cup is to bring great racing all around the country,
right?
But Santa Anita is truly one of the best.
Well, a lot has changed since the inception of the Breeders' Cup 40 years ago. We've lost some racetracks like Arlington. We've changed some racetracks like Gulfstream Park that it would be tough to accommodate a Breeders' Cup without, some supplemental seating. That they do that at Keeneland. But, I think several years ago, there was the East Coast crew were biased. They said, well, there's a West Coast bias. But at the end of the day, you're guaranteed a good turf course. That's the key. Yeah, I mean, when I was lived and worked in New York, the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Cigar one, absolute deluge. Only 20,000 people showed up. And what a lot of the uninitiated don't realize, the Breeders' Cup, even if they want to move the venue around, the tracks have to agree to host it. Some certain tracks don't want to host it right now for various reasons, New York being one of them, because they're undergoing a lot of construction, a lot of changes. So this is the West Coast, I think, is the best place, and travel now has become so easy for the horses. And the fact that there are 43 European pre-entries goes to show you travel is not an issue.
In Southern California, going to play host in back-to-back years, Santa Anita this year, Del Mar next year. Speaking of West Coast, George Krikorian is one of the top owners and breeders in the sport. He calls California home. He's got a beautiful farm out in Kentucky, but a horse that has campaigned for him on the East Coast under Bill Mott is Warlike Goddess, and she just needs to get a trip and work it all. You go back to that Del Mar Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf. Wasn't maybe the ride that they had hoped for, and she comes up short there. But Warlike Goddess scheduled to take on the boys and the Longines Breeders' Cup turf. This is her out on the track here at Santa Anita, and you can see walking along there is Bill Mott. When we were at Keeneland, that was just a couple weeks ago, he had a walker because he had just had hip replacement surgery. So you can see his gait kind of moving along. Normally, he'd be on horseback.
He'd be on horseback, and he'd be marching along. So hopefully he can jog for the vet here between those two purple markers. I don't think he'll be competing anytime soon. Still in a rehab session. But Warlike Goddess, you would ask, why is she not going in the filly and mare turf against them? Well, she beat the boys last time, but I think this truly is a case of, I know it doesn't sound like, she prefers the mile and a half. She's better. The longer the races, the better she is. I mean, her last defeat, of any significant importance was at a mile and a quarter in the New York Handicap. She was beaten 2 lengths that day. Her other defeats are by a neck ahead. Mile and a half is clearly her game. She was third in this race last year.
And third in the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf the year before. But again, she just needs the right trip and the right rider to deliver that. Christina?
No one watches more works here at Santa Anita than this man right here, private clocker Gary Young. Gary, you're here every day. This is an exciting time because we all start arriving and getting excited for the Breeders' Cup. But give me an overall general picture what you've been seeing the last several weeks as we get closer and closer to Breeders' Cup.
Well, some horses got here early and got a few works over the track. Some of them just come in here late and just jog and gallop. The Europeans and the Japanese horses obviously are doing that route. Asmussen's been here a good long time with his horses. Society is trained very well. I would think she'd be a big factor in the filly and mare sprint. I think Clairiere might bounce back with a good race. I know her last race was really below average for her, but there's going to be quite a bit of pace in that race on paper, and her work here was very good. The track has been quick. It's been very cool for this time of year. I mean, usually it can be very hot and it can fluff the track up, but it's been very cool for this time of year. The times have been good, and, this is why we play the game.
Yeah. With the forecast, it should be sunny all week. We should have some nice weather. Do you expect the track to continue to play the same in the mornings, or is that something that you adjust for day by day as you're watching?
You kind of do it day by day, but it's been pretty consistent this meet. The 2 days of the Breeders' Cup, there's not a whole lot of training. They're opening at 5:30 and closing at 6:30 on Saturday and 7:15 on Friday. But you would expect the track to be the same as it was. Speed does pretty good around here. Mm-hmm. Does on dirt races just about everywhere, but the speed does pretty good around here, and I hope we have a good event that goes off as planned.
We're seeing some exciting stuff from Arabian Knight in the morning. From your perspective, what are you seeing in his training?
He's working like a beast. As
good as you've seen him, better than ever?
When he won the Pacific Classic, it was great and everything, but I kind of in my back of my mind said, I said to myself, if he's going to win the Breeders' Cup, he's going to have to move up, and I think he's moved up by a big way. He beat older horses that day. No disrespect to the older horses in that race, but this is a different kettle of fish here. White Abarrio was very good this morning. He came the final quarter in 22-4, looked good. But I would think Arabian Knight would be very tough in the Classic. I do.
We appreciate the insight. I'm sure we'll bother you again throughout this week and enjoy all of your insight and analysis as always.
I can hardly wait.
Todd, we'll send it back to you.
We've all known Gary Young a long time, but for those of you who don't know, I was talking to him about some of the great horses over the years. One of his big breaks was with Brocco. And so it was Mr. Broccoli
Albert Broccoli.
Yeah, who wrote the James Bond series. And
Randy Winnick was the trainer.
Yep, Brocco, very, very good.
Yep.
So Gary Young has known what a good horse looks like for a long, long time, and certainly touting what he's seen in the morning from Arabian Knight and White Abarrio. Okay, back into the action going on around, and Warlike Goddess out on the track here at Santa Anita. We saw Bill Mott walking alongside her, and now looks like she's going to come out for their goal this morning as she disappears there just behind the board, and will reemerge. Warlike Goddess third just a couple of years ago in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, easily could have won, and then last year a gallant third, beaten 3 lengths in the Breeders' Cup Turf, and they have made the decision to come back against the boys. 11 for 17 lifetime. This 6-year-old mare by English Channel out of the Northlight mare Misty North, bred by the legendary Calumet Farm in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Pretty filly, and she looks like a show horse, a dressage horse here, the way she's carrying herself. But that is in part because she's wearing draw reins, cue the yearly draw reins segment that I always talk about here, and that's not a conventional bridle. That is the reins. You can barely see them there because of the dark leather, but they are attached to the girth. The rein runs up through the ring of the bit and into the rider's hands. There's 2 reasons for this. It gives the rider a little more leverage, and it prevents the horse from lifting their head up if they're a little aggressive. If they're aggressive, they lift their head up, you have no control. So this creates that see that bowed neck appearance, and in turn makes the horse utilize their back end. It develops a great hind end. It makes them push rather than pull off. So the draw reins here as this filly looks in great shape. Very, very light on her feet.
Warlike Goddess well within herself and getting ready for the Breeders' Cup Turf on Saturday, November 4th here at Santa Anita. Michelle?
Todd, thank you so much. I'm joined right now by Scott Blasi and our guest star committee of one, who might be the drooliest horse I've ever met. You told me he's not.
I mean, how do I transition from drooliest horse?
Yeah, I don't
what do
think
you
you
do
can.
for you can't
can't
recover from that?
No, you can't.
I don't know. We're obviously having a little bit of a technical issue there. We'll check back in with Michelle Yu, with Steve Asmussen's assistant trainer, Scott Blasi. Let's talk about Adair Manor. And Adair Manor, one of the horses getting ready for 2 championship days of racing and coming out onto the track here at Santa Anita for the distaff and trainer Bob Baffert.
Yeah, Adair Manor has established herself here on the West Coast as probably the best older filly. I mean, she, back in March, she was competing in an A other than. She's just marched through her conditions, blowout wins, left, right, and center. She's been beating the same group time and time again. So it's the waters are going to get a little deep for her here, but she's done nothing wrong, and she loves it here at Santa Anita. She's had 7 lifetime wins. 6 of them have been right here over this very racetrack.
Adair Manor, a dark bear brown filly, 4-year-old by Uncle Mo out of the Giant Gizmo mare. Brooklyn's Way was bred by Town and Country Horse Farms and Gary Brode in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Has quite a win streak coming in, 5 in a row, but as Simon mentioned, only 1 of those against Grade 1 company. The other 3 are Grade 2 and then an optional claiming win. Adair Manor clearly going to have to step it up here in the Longines Breeders' Cup distaff. Likes to go gate to wire. She showed the ability to rate a little bit in the Grade 3 Clement L. Hirsch, but you can see her on edge out here this morning, and that kind of reflects her running style in the afternoon.
Yeah, she's one that likes to get it on in the afternoon, and she's doing it here. But she's just been beating Desert Dawn, who would be a big price in here.
Let's take you back to Louisville, Kentucky. Earlier this morning at Churchill Downs, I know it looks like Allies Beach, but Kate and Bradar informing us the correct pronunciation here is Alice Beach.
I believe that's her on the inside. Correct, the chestnut filly, yeah, on the inside there. So that's her working in company for trainer Tom Amos. And they got her in 48 flat. So I would imagine he'd be very happy with that workout.
Preparing for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, part of Future Stars Friday. It's Alice Beach completing the half mile and 48 seconds earlier at Churchill Downs. And conditions, it was nice to see. Conditions were perfect in Kentucky. You've got the closing couple of days coming up at Keeneland tomorrow and Saturday. Saturday will be closing day. Great conditions this morning in Lexington. Same at Churchill Downs, and they'll be picking up the mantle of racing starting on Sunday. Catching up with the trainer of Alice Beach afterward, Kate and Bradar.
Well, Tom Amos had 2 Breeders' Cup bound fillies breezing this morning, but Tom, they were very different types of fillies entering in very different types of races. Let's start with Who's Your Filly?
Mm-hmm. So Who's Your Filly worked this morning, and we went a half mile. She's a very good workhorse, as she put on display today. We're in the distaff, and Louis Saez is going to be our rider. You may have noticed that she wore blinkers this morning in the workout. We feel like maybe we're giving away a little bit of our game by allowing her to kind of stalk, and depending upon post position and conversations with the owner Bill Stone, we'll get a strategy. But the strategy right now might be to try to be very close, if not on the lead.
Is that just a kind of a personality trait for her, that maybe she's just a little bit better when she is the one everybody's trying to chase?
It could be, right? So, I mean, look, this race has so many aspects of it. I think it's the most wide open race of all the Breeders' Cup races on the dirt. There have been so many division leaders in the filly and mare division going long, and people have come to the front and have dropped off, and you could probably say that about our horse as well at some point in the 3-year-old division. So I think there's a number of horses that could bring their A game, and their A game would be good enough to win. I think Who's Your Filly is one of those horses.
And I'm going to guess that it was more of a maintenance type of work, but to try to produce that speed you're looking for.
Yeah, look, she's a filly that enjoys her job, and she went out there and showed it today for sure. And yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Contrast that with Alice Beach, a 2-year-old filly, kind of a very different style.
Yeah, so Alice Beach was third in the Alcibiades. She made the lead right out of the gate, which was probably a bit of a surprise to a lot of people. Flavian Pratt rode her that day, and he had a plan, and I think it was a good plan. But she was a little confused on the lead, waiting on horses. And so in today's work, we put her down on the inside. We crowded her quite a bit because she doesn't have a lot of experience. We wanted her to be relaxed in that position. She was. So I think when you see her in the juvenile fillies on Friday, you're looking at a horse that can be tactical but can sit behind horses. She certainly did that when she broke her maiden in her debut at Saratoga. Greg Trematine, the owner, and I will talk about strategy for her. But, I think with her, it's a little bit more wide open what we might do.
I know a lot of people talk about the last part and even the gallop out of Works. I personally thought that was the best part for her. I thought she finished beautifully.
Yeah, she finished very, very well. Galloped out well also, and as Hoosier Filly did. Look, these are two horses that, we're trying to accomplish different things in the workouts in the morning as we get close to the race. This is their last opportunity to have a fast work or a big move before the Breeders' Cup. And, to coin a phrase, it went the way we wanted it to go with both of them. They're both long shots in their races, but they're both long shots with an opportunity to step up.
Doing very different things in the morning, but to get the same result in the afternoon, which is a victory and a good performance.
Yeah, we want a good performance, for sure.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Caden.
Always a pleasure to talk to Tom and get the perspective of what the motivation is behind the workouts, as well as the workouts themselves.
Yeah, I loved what he talked about, putting the horse on the inside, crowding him, getting him ready. But Hoosier Filly is a horse that he's never lost confidence in. We came into the season expecting Hoosier Filly to be the dominant 3-year-old filly. It hasn't happened that way. She's shown glimpses of being really good. Could she pull off an upset in the distaff?
I mean, she could. You got to have faith in Tom. And I had a dinner with him about a year ago now, and he honestly thought Hoosier Filly was one of the best horses he'd ever trained, if not the best. And he's a very understated guy. He doesn't usually say that, Tom. So he's still got faith in her. And those types of horses are the ones that can jump up and spring a big surprise, But it wouldn't be a surprise to Tom if she did run a huge race.
Remember, it was Japan that upset the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff just 2 seasons ago at Del Mar. So it has been a race historically that does have significant upsets. Okay, let's turn our attention to the Juvenile Fillies Turf. And earlier this morning, out at Churchill Downs, taking a look at Pharaoh's Wine.
Yeah, for trainer Dale Romans, and a horse that's really turned around since jumping on the grass. Broke the maiden 2 back, and then finished second in the Jessamine at Keeneland on good ground. Just having a little trouble cornering here around the turf course, around the main track here. You can see it's fairly aggressive, and the rider was just having to kind of, help her around the turn there. She was going so fast.
Daughter of American Pharaoh out of the Patio Prado mare, Sweeping Patty. Pharaoh's Wine was bred by Pasella Racing, Frank Jones, and Nancy Delanois, and the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Second last time out in the Jessamine Stakes as a pretty big price. And Dale Romans talking to Kate and Bradar afterwards.
Well, Dale Romans is still playing the waiting game with Pharaoh's Wine, but she put in her work today. Dale, first of all, how was the work? What were you looking for?
I mean, she worked beautiful. I mean, she went around there just as easy as she could be. Tammy gave her 2 thumbs up, and this filly's training super. I just hope she gets a chance to run, but we only have 24 more hours before we have to get on the plane and make a decision.
Do you train her the same way?
I've trained her like we're going to run. And because there's not a race for Churchill till the 26th, so I'd hate to wait that long. She's setting on go.
What tells you that she's going in the right direction and that she's this caliber?
Well, I thought her race at Kentucky Downs was big. We always thought she could really run. I'll tell you the truth, I can't believe she's not undefeated. But she ran 3 good races in a row. Kentucky Downs race was good. She came back and got beat 3 lengths, ran a big race in the stake at Keeneland, and 2 probably whose horse is going to be one of the favorites. And I just wish she was in.
Well, we will cross our fingers for you and hope that she gets to make the trip.
The clock's ticking.
It's ticking for everybody as we get closer and closer to the Breeders' Cup.
Dale Roman's never afraid to take a shot, and he wants his shot with Pharaoh's Wine and the Juvenile Fillies Turf. Oh, they're winding up the blowers somewhere behind us right there.
I go to sleep with that in my head.
All right, let's see if we can get our camera working with Michelle Yu.
Todd, thank you so much. I'm joined right now by Scott Blasi and our guest star committee of one, who might be the drooliest horse I've ever met. You told me he's not. He's kind of a dude.
He's a little bit of a brat, but he's a 2-year-old, and he's not completely focused yet, but he's getting there. He definitely has some talent.
Well, I like him. I think he's kind of cool right here. Scott, you guys have come into here early like you normally do. Tell me a little bit about what you guys have been doing and how all your horses have acclimated.
Well, yeah, this has worked for us in the past for Breeders' Cup. We like to come out here and get settled and acclimated, get the horses adjusted to the racetrack. We tend to have a tendency to put very easy works into them early and then start doing more as we progress. And we had our big works last week, and I thought everybody performed really well.
I want to talk about Clairiere a little bit since you're talking about the works last week. She got rave reviews from everybody. I also thought it was very good watching the work on XB TV. Where would you rank her?
Well, she's just immensely talented and definitely has a big shot in this race. And the way that her preparation has been out here gives us more confidence.
All right, appreciate the time and appreciate you, Committee of One, for the bath. I got a free bath this morning, guys.
A bath of saliva. Oh, that image. Oh, my. Our thanks to Scott Blasi and the Steve Asmussen team for taking us behind the scenes there. It's been a very busy morning here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup with many more significant workouts ahead. All the latest breaking news you'll find here, and there's still a chance for you to attend the 40th edition of the Breeders' Cup World Championships. To find out more about tickets that are currently available, visit breederscup.com/tickets. We'll be back with more Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita right after this.
FanDuel Casino has your chance at the #1 feeling, winning, which ranks even higher than the 18th best feeling, saving a kid from a well. 59 years later. Find the #1 feeling winning on FanDuel Casino Reward Machine. Free to play every day with a chance at a $2,000 top prize.
Hey there, it's Craig Carden. I know I can't believe it either, but the World Series is officially here. So if you're choosing to make a wager on the series this year, please be sure to do so responsibly. Gambling should always be fun, social, and entertaining. If at any time you reach a point where it's not all three, take a break, take a breath. Go to FanDuel.com/playwell. Go there right now. Run. Go there and learn more.
Every sire hopes to have a son to follow in his footsteps.
An impressive debut.
For Munnings, that son is Jack Christopher.
Jack Christopher to win the champagne.
Unbeaten Grade 1 winner at 2. Dual Grade 1 winner at 3.
And he is pouring it on here. It is Jack Christopher winning the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins Memorial.
Jack Christopher.
FanDuel's Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup is presented by Fasig-Tipton and by Windstar Farm.
Flightline has gone right by Life is Good and comes into the final furlong with a three-leg lead. Life is Good trying to claim the second. Tabo's third, down to the 16th pole. It is Flightline. It is mind-tingling, jaw-dropping, awe-inspiring, Secretariat-like Breeders' Cup Classic win.
Larry Colmus running out of superlatives down the stretch because the race was over when they got to the top of the stretch. Flightline retires undefeated and goes out like a blaze of glory in winning the Breeders' Cup Classic. Had a chance to talk to Larry Colmus. He got into town last night. He's staying here locally. Went over to the Derby, which is one of the great racing places with a tremendous history here. But looking forward to hearing him call those 2 championship days of racing.
Yeah, voice of the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup. And yeah, the Derby. I mean, that's a local restaurant here, the Derby. But
yes.
I think it's closing down for some remodeling soon.
Yeah, they're going to expand it. And it is also the place where George Wolfe's apartment, when he stayed here at Santa Anita, and then when he unfortunately passed away during a racing incident later in the afternoon. But he was made famous in the movie Seabiscuit. If you haven't seen it, check it out. One of the best racing movies of all time. But yeah, you can still, if you know somebody, go up and tour that apartment where George Wolfe used to live. The Derby, outstanding. A lot of people who are making reservations to come out here are making reservations at the Derby. So don't miss it when you're in town at Santa Anita. So 2 championship days of racing coming up. It'll be Future Stars Friday. And then next week, 1 week from tomorrow, Saturday, with the highlight being the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Going to be a little bit earlier in the card. It's not going to be the last Breeders' Cup race on the card. Let's head back out to Churchill Downs and a young gentleman who's been having a great year as a jockey and right now competing for a fall title at Keeneland, but over in Louisville, talking about Tyler Gaffalione with Kate and Bradar.
Tyler Gaffalione's a busy man these days, morning and afternoons. Let's talk about Pretty Mischievous' work this morning. How did she go?
She had a great work this morning. Nice and easy, pretty maintenance, but got a good gallop out. She did everything on her own, came back great, so all systems go right now.
When you're on her now in comparison to the time around the Kentucky Oaks, how would you say she compares?
Honestly, she's just gotten bigger and stronger every race. We're really surprised. We didn't expect to have her this late in the year. I think this will be her 11th start, but she's just taking everything we throw at her, and she's giving it back.
I don't think we have time to go through every single one of your Breeders' Cup runners, but talk a little about Clapton in the Breeders' Cup Classic. How is he coming into the race, and what are your thoughts about the race as a whole?
I love Clapton. He's a very honest horse. Ever since transferring to Chad Summers, he's really stepped up his game. Had a nice race up in New York, came back here in Kentucky, was very impressive. He'll definitely handle the distance, and we should get plenty of pace in front of us.
You return with Caravel for Brad Cox off of a victory in the Breeders' Cup. What's that like to be coming back when you had such a big triumph?
It's amazing. You get these kind of horses that just stay consistent, and through the years, they show up every time. They're a lot of fun to be around. They give you a little bit more motivation, and it's something to look forward to.
She is coming in a little bit differently than last time around. What has to happen for her? What do you think has been different this year?
We've been a little bit unlucky with the weather this year. It's been a lot of rain in the fall, and our last 2 races, the track was a little bit wet, and just not her preferred surface. But we should be good out in California. It's normally pretty quick out there, and it doesn't look like there's much rain in the forecast, so should be good.
What's the feeling for you and other jockeys heading into the Breeders' Cup?
It's always exciting. This is what we work all year for, so a chance to compete against the best in the world, it's a lot of fun.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Tyler Gaffalione, hoping lightning strikes twice with Caravel, but a lot of other horses to worry about as well.
Tyler Gaffalione, just as consistent a jockey as you'll find, and one of the best that we have to offer here in America.
No question about that. Yeah, just to consistently across the board, day in, day out. It doesn't matter what type of race, what distance, what surface, gives it his all.
Joaquin, where are you?
Well, guys, I made my way back to the John Sadler barn. You just showed a replay of last year's Breeders' Cup Classic a few seconds ago, which was won by Flightline, ended his career perfect. He was a 6 for 6, winning the Breeders' Cup Classic, would go on to be named Horse of the Year. I want to introduce you to somebody that just stepped on the wash rack right here. This is Flightline's little brother, a 2-year-old who has not raced just yet. This is Eagles Flight. Now, Flightline, he was by Tappet. Eagles Flight, he's by another top stallion in the world, and that is by Curlin, out of that Indian Charlie mare in Feathered. He was a 2-year-old that was foaled in the spring of 2021. He was bred by Summer Win Equine. And as I mentioned a second ago, no works on the tab just yet. I asked John Sadler where he's at in his development at this point in time. And John Sadler, just joking around and kidding around, says, look, this horse is sort of like a fancy wine. We're going to take our time with this one. But a name to remember here, Todd, Eagles Flight, the 2-year-old little brother of your Breeders' Cup Classic winner and Horse of the Year, Flightline.
Well, so John Sadler getting another shot at essentially that bloodline, and obviously had to be very patient with Flightline, just 6 total career starts.
Yeah, a lot of pressure there on that little young horse right there. I mean, it's very rare that horses of Flightline stature, the siblings live up to that, but certainly we'll be watching and following that horse closely.
Flightline, the star of last year's Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. This year, most would say it's anybody's race, right?
I would think so. I think the Classic is wide open. I think the closer we get, having, in particular watched the Japanese horse, Ushba Tesoro, the last couple of days, I think he's going to gain a lot of traction. I think a lot of people, when they see him in person, are going to jump on him. I think he's a horse with a massive chance in the Classic.
Flightline got a lot of attention as he retired and was going off to stud. But, Christina, we have to remember, when you look at all the racehorses around the country, not all of them go off to a breeding career.
That's right. So we gave you the news earlier about Paddington. He will head off to stud, but it's important to keep in mind that there are so many different opportunities for not just the Breeders' Cup horses, but for all the horses that compete in our wonderful sport of thoroughbred racing, and highlighting some of those past stars and in their second careers, the Retired Racehorse Project. Take a look.
So we're here at the Retired Racehorse Project in Lexington, Kentucky. And the Retired Racehorse Project is a market-based approach to aftercare. It's showcasing how amazing these thoroughbreds are in everything that they can do. It's really important for First Racing, FanDuel TV, and the Breeders' Cup to support aftercare, whether they were competitive on the racetrack or whether they weren't competitive on the racetrack. They're now here on a level playing field, competing against one another. And the makeover itself is actually just increasing demand for these retired racehorses.
This is Red King, was racing last October. He was a stallion in December. And so he had kind of culture shock transitioning. And then he just took to the second career like it was nothing. He absolutely loves it. He loves the challenge of learning new things.
It's really interesting to be at this show and see all these thoroughbreds competing in dressage, show jumping, competitive trail. There's mock fox hunts. There's freestyle competition.
I'm always looking for horses that are going to make field hunters. And I'm the current owner of Arcangelo. Obviously, he's a very, very classy horse. Any horse that wins $3 million, I mean, that goes without saying. Everything about him has been just totally uncomplicated. And I think this horse is going to make a superb field hunter.
When you're on a thoroughbred, they just give it their all, and they have the biggest hearts. They never quit. They can be tricky, but once you get into them and they trust you, they'll do anything for you.
It is a competition. There's over $100,000 in prizes and money to be won, but I get the feeling that getting your thoroughbred to the makeover is winning in itself.
So the RP has always been on my bucket list. I've never had the horse I wanted to do it with until we got the Black Album. And to be competing in it, it does mean a lot. And it's very exciting to be in it with such a great horse I've had such a long relationship with.
As much as he was as a good racehorse, he seems to be a pretty talented doing other stuff. He's some big ability over the jump, I thought it was really fun to watch from where I'm standing. It's a big plus for us as a trainer. We know they have a future where we don't have to worry about it.
And the winner is from Field Hunters, number 110, Arcangelo, ridden by Gina Gans.
It's huge. I mean, it just goes to show you that these horses obviously have a tremendous amount of talent after the racetrack and can excel in other things other than running fast around an oval. So, it's very important that we continue to press forward with aftercare and things such as that.
It's really important to show how much we really care about the thoroughbreds and how we really want them to find a soft place to land after they're done giving us all that they can in their race careers. And to see these horses, some were racing just a few months ago and now they're coming back and competing in a completely different discipline. It just speaks volumes to what the thoroughbred really is and how special of a breed it is and why we're so lucky to get to work with them every day.
I couldn't agree more listening to that last point there from Jody Vella-Gregory. And it was actually on this show last year that we had the chance to speak to Brad Cox, and he was telling us that Arklow was one of his horses that was training the best leading up to the Breeders' Cup. He really stole the show there at the Retired Racehorse Project. And Todd and Simon, I think the thing about thoroughbreds, and you heard it there in the package, they are so smart. You show them something once and they're going to do it right the second or third time. You put them in front of a 2-foot fence and they're going to jump it at 3 feet high. They try so hard and they give us so much, and it's all exemplified right there with their second careers.
Thank you very much, Christine. And some of the second careers are pony horses here at the racetrack. You'll see some very famous horses out there. Lava Man for trainer Doug O'Neill eventually came back as a pony horse. They call him Coach around the barn.
Exactly. So, yeah, Aftercare shouldn't be an afterthought, and it's taken a big leap forward in the last several years here within our industry.
Yeah, it means a lot across the industry, and Breeders' Cup has made it one of its central tenets. We have a few minutes left here on this first edition of Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. We'll be back with more from Santa Anita, site of the 40th running of the Breeders' Cup, right after this.
Your brain is an amazing thing, but as you get older, it naturally begins to change, causing a lack of sharpness or even trouble with recall. Thankfully, the breakthrough in Prevagen helps your brain and actually improves memory. The secret is an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. In clinical trials, Prevagen has been shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription.
At Calumet Farm, we're proud to offer proven stallions to fit every breeder's needs. With over 72 million in progeny winnings on dirt and turf, our diverse roster is producing the champions of today and tomorrow. Calumet Farm, a legacy reborn.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one also runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, our best-selling big fan hands down. BigFans.com. Comfort without compromise.
Honor AP, a mesmerizing horse from the very beginning, who captured the imagination of the racing world and proved his potential on the track. A Grade 1 winner, out of a multiple Grade 1 winner, with incomparable looks and an unbeatable pedigree. The speed, the bloodline, the physical. Honor AP. Only at Lane's End.
With NetJets, travel will always be personal. We do everything it takes to make every flight exceptional. Every single detail of your experience is personalized, just for you. As our standard is not just to meet our definition of perfection, it's to exceed yours.
Eclipse Champion Blade, a proven sire with over 15% lifetime stakes horses. And in the sales ring, Blaine continues to prove his value.
Now 50, 550, 550,000.
I'm at a period 85, 85 to the back, 485,000. Thank you.
310,000 upstairs. His stakes-producing daughters include the dam of Eclipse Champion Forte.
Forte to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Blade, standing at Claiborne Farm.
As horse racing's greatest take the stage at the Breeders' Cup, we're working to provide an ecosystem of care to keep these athletes safe. With comprehensive veterinary examinations starting weeks before entry, up until they leave the starting gate. With extensive racing, surface testing, and measurement protocols. new national uniform regulation, and rigorous enforcement under the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Authority. And with the addition of advanced technology and new diagnostic tools, we're taking great and positive strides. But we are committed to doing much more. So no matter who wears the crown, safety runs first at the Breeders' Cup. To learn more, visit breederscup.com/safety.
The safety protocols that are going on at Breeders' Cup are going to be second to none. The last couple of years, we have instituted some of the most rigorous rules in racing. And the process isn't only when horses are here on the grounds. It started months ago with out-of-competition testing. And, of course, we're going to have veterinary eyes on every single horse every single day leading up to the World Championships. Since you guys were talking about aftercare and talking about horses doing second careers, I thought I would introduce you to former Breeders' Cup participant Eddie Haskell. Eddie Haskell raced for trainer Mark Glatt, and when he was done racing, they decided that he should be a stable pony. His transition has been excellent. I've gotten to watch him from his first day off the track until now, and his faithful partner, Melissa, is over here handing me the carrots that he likes, and he has done such a great job. But it's just such a tribute to these animals and their minds to see what they can do when they used to go as fast as they could down the track, and, you know, a couple weeks later, they're assisting another horse and taking him nice and slow. I just love the thoroughbred, and I think that seeing them as ponies just makes my heart so happy.
I think a lot of those horses you've been visiting have been happy to see you, Michelle. You phenomenal work once again. So happy to have you as part of our team here on Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. Trainer Timberlake has had an up and down year with one horse in particular, Practical Move. He won the Santa Anita Derby. He would have been a factor in the Kentucky Derby. Unfortunately, it had to scratch. He had to wait to bring him back. And he came back just in time to participate in the Breeders' Cup. He won his comeback race in Allowance Company, but they had to make a decision. Do you try for the Breeders' Cup Classic, or do you maybe play it a little bit safer and go for the mile?
Yeah, I was very, very impressed with his comeback race. I mean, that was a 2 turns at Santa Anita, and, you know, that was a key race for him. If he could participate in Breeders' Cup weekend, he had to win it. Not only win it, but he had to win it well, and that's exactly what he did.
This is back on October 6th, race number 8 here at Santa Anita, the return of Practical Move. Let's watch and listen.
Off the fence as he comes for the lead at the top of the stretch. Tripoli in between horses, battling gamely, and then it's Newgrange and American Admiral, but with a furlong left to go, Practical Move is going to return in style. And it's Practical Move. This will be number 3 for Ramon Vasquez, and he just guided Practical Move around the racetrack. Very nice. Second to Tripoli, then American Admiral.
And that move and that win by Practical Move made him undefeated here at Santa Anita, 4 for 4. So he definitely loves the racetrack. Let's find out more as Christina is with his trainer.
I'm joined by Tim Yakteen, trainer of Practical Move, the Santa Anita Derby winner. Tim, your final work is tomorrow. What are you looking for from him?
You know, we'll leave the 5 ace pole, and then we'll just figure it out and go from there.
What's he like to train overall? Does he put a lot into his training, or do you have to ask him for a little bit?
No, he's pretty willing in the mornings, so we don't have to ask him for a whole bunch. He's always pretty willing to put in a little more than probably we want.
Big return race back for him against Allowance Company here recently. What have you seen from him since that race? Anything noteworthy or anything in particular to point out?
No, you know, he's very straightforward, makes my job easy, makes me look good. You know, I have to give all the credit to my staff and everything. I'm really not doing a whole bunch, just along for the ride.
You're calling all the shots. You should take more credit. What about the decision between running in the dirt mile versus the classic? What went into your thought process and ultimately pushed you in the direction of the dirt mile?
Yeah, that was tough question, but ultimately it boiled down to we only had the one race, and I wasn't confident enough in myself that I'd have him ready to go 1.25 miles. So we opted for the tougher race of the 2. Yeah, so that's sort of how we ended up, mainly because I didn't have another race in him. I think we sort of ran out of time, and I wanted to make sure that we were going to take on a distance that we had already proven ourselves at. The 1.25 miles was still an unknown. So we'll go the gun runner route, go in the mile, and then come back in the classic hopefully next year.
Yeah, there's always another year. Good luck with him this year. We look forward to it.
Thank you.
Practical Move. He is working tomorrow, Saturday morning, here at Santa Anita, his final work before the dirt mile.
Yeah, well, I like his reasoning there. Look, we've got another season ahead of us. Why do we have to go for the... And it would have been tempting because, like we said, he's undefeated at Santa Anita. It would have been tempting to go for the biggest prize.
Yeah, but I think he's made the right move. I absolutely do. You know, obviously with the whole summer off, he's lightly raced, only had 3 starts, got a whole year ahead of him. And, yeah, the Classic will be sitting there next year just south of us here at Del Mar, right?
Yep, Practical Move trying to beat Cody's Wish and the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. It's been a busy morning for the Mott team. Let's find out how they looked at everything that took place this morning here at Santa Anita.
My world-traveling friend Neil Pazanski is here with the barn of Bill Mott, and we're standing outside of Cody Wish's stall. My first question is, who has to ride him? Because I saw him from afar today, and it looked like a freight train could barely hold him back.
Yeah, he pretty much was like a freight train. He looked absolutely fantastic out there today. We got a guy that's been getting on him named Damien. We showed up from Ocala one day, and he can ride about anything.
I mean, does it feel kind of good for you or not so good to be passing the reins on to some other people?
Oh, believe me, it feels good. I'm getting a little too old for him. But I still get to breeze him, and that's a good feeling there, too.
I saw just FYI out as well, and she's been looking very spry over the tracks.
Yeah, she's another one. She's going like a machine now. Since her last race, it's like she was good before, but now it's like, wow, she's doing very well.
Looking at all your horses you guys have shipped in, it feels like everyone is peaking at the right time. When they come out here, they don't look like they need days or rest. They come out like they are ready to train.
Yeah, they got in Wednesday night, and we were considering, maybe just giving them a walk day Thursday. And they were all tearing the stalls down. We had to get them out and, called an audible and said, well, we're training. So, yeah, they're all doing very, very, very good.
Just want to talk a little bit about Cody's Wish. Just what's it meant to have him in the barn for everybody that's on the backside?
It was always, we always knew what the story was, and it was always tremendous. And when I finally got to witness it at Keeneland, where Bill and I took him out into that little paddock outside our barn, and I actually witnessed him walk up to Cody Dorman, it was like give you chills. I mean, it was to see it, right up like that, and it just gives you that feeling, there is very something special there.
And the fact that this is the same horse that can do that and then breathes fire down the racetrack, I mean, it just shows the amazing mind that a thoroughbred has.
Yeah, he becomes a different animal. And he's done it every time he sees him. He just puts his head down and walks right up to him. It's a most amazing thing you'll ever see.
We appreciate the time. Appreciate letting us visit with Cody's Wish. I'm sure we'll see you this week.
You got it. Thanks, Michelle.
Guys?
What a trio of horses we're talking about there at Cody's Wish in the center of it. And we thank the Mott team for giving us inside access here on breakfast at the Breeders' Cup. With all of those horses, all of them have huge chances in their respective races. So the Bill Mott team will be busy over the 2 championship days of racing. You could be part of all these special moments here. It's the 40th edition of the Breeders' Cup back at Santa Anita for a record 11th time. You're going to want to witness it in person, and you can still get tickets. Tickets are available. breederscup.com/tickets. We'll be back with more Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup right after this.
Consistently versatile with 26 Grade 1 winners on every surface, from 6 furlongs to 1 1/4 miles, all over the world.
Switzerland in the Dubai Golden Shaheen. Switzerland wins.
Charles Fight on the outside at the wire. Photo for the win.
And Prince of Monaco takes the lead. Prince of Monaco, too good.
All purpose, all places, all power. Speightstown.
Hey there, it's Craig Carden, and the NBA is back. If you're choosing to bet on some NBA action this season, please make sure you do so responsibly. Remember, gambling should always be fun, social, and entertaining. If at any time you reach a point where it's not, then take a break or a timeout and look into the tools and the resources available to you and everybody by going to FanDuel.com/playwell.
FanDuel Casino has your chance at the #1 feeling, winning. Winning ranks higher than any other feeling. higher than number 30, saying, I told you so.
Told you so.
Higher than number 89, the feeling of catching your car keys with one hand. And number 78, thinking it's Friday when it's really Saturday. New players get 50 chances at winning with their first deposit on FanDuel Casino.
We watched his career. You know, the speed he had was tremendous. So we bought 2 or 3, underbidder on several. Really nice volatile colt in this last sale that I think maybe $600,000. Beautiful colt.
Tom, $600,000. Thank you very much and good luck.
Perfect sire for the 2-year-old sales, and so we'll be bidding against some of our peers, no doubt. So we're looking forward to it. We like a little competition. You know, it's fun.
Volatile, victorious in the Vanderbilt.
So leading up to the Breeders' Cup, my agent rang me up. He said, you're going to ride a horse named Arcang. I didn't know how to pronounce it at the time, for Andre Fab. I knew nothing about him. We had no video at the time, but his form wasn't all that great. So since I had no video and very little form to work off of, I thought I would ask Andre Fab in the paddock how he wanted him ridden. Couldn't find him. There was 1,000 people in the paddock, and that's all I had in terms of preparation and instructions to ride Arcang.
And they're off. And Bertrando broke alertly, and he is going immediately after the lead.
I actually looked at the board in the warm-up, saw he was 99-1, and I thought, oh my God, I just hope I'm not embarrassing, trailing in last as I come through the stretch. So I thought if I took him back, maybe to last or so, tried to save some ground, at least I would finish and be respectable. So that's what I did.
Bertrando leads the way down the backstretch with his stablemate Marquetry just off his flank with a half mile to run. Arcang beginning to hit his best stride.
And I knew I had a chance at that time, at least to hit the board. And as we turned for home, Arcang was taking me to Bertrando, and I not only knew I had a chance, but I thought I had actually a chance to win at that point.
As they come to the top of the stretch, Azud is still in with the chance in behind horses. Best Pal is only 4 lengths from the lead.
I don't know who was more shocked, me or Gary Stevens, as I ran by him through the final 16th of a mile.
Arcang is coming in between horses, and it's still Bertrando with an onslaught of challengers. Here comes Arcang, a huge upset looming here as Arcang comes flying on the outside, and he runs by Bertrando, Kids and Chris. Here is Arcang to win it, and an absolute shocker. He's 99-1.
So I had complained all through the last 2 races that I wasn't doing any good there that day. I was blanked on the Breeders' Cup card. So when I hit the wire, I felt foolish. I thought I should have had more respect for the trainer, Andre Fab, and the horse. And I thought, this is impossible. If I am this surprised, just imagine how surprised everybody else is.
Jerry Bailey, one of the best we've ever seen in the sport, and with one of his many highlights at the Breeders' Cup. I didn't realize until he said that he was getting blanked that day.
Yep.
It was his only win. But as far as Andre Fab, it's amazing that he would send a horse over here and they'd be 99-1. He's one of the most successful trainers in Europe's biggest race, the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah, but that race is on the dirt. I mean, he's not accustomed to running horses on the dirt. And, Andre Fab still training. I don't know what he is now. I think he's in his early 70s, but one of the greatest of all time in Europe.
30 years ago, right here at Santa Anita, Arcang with the biggest upset in the history of the Breeders' Cup. Looks like a wide open field this year, but it's so wide open to the point that you won't have a 99-1 shot. Looking through the field with so many horses having a chance, yeah, you'll have some 20 and 30-1 shots, but nothing like Arcang. Taking a look at the horses that are pre-entered for the highlights of 2 championship days of racing, the Longines Breeders' Cup Classic. Michelle Yu, who you got your eye on in this division?
Well, Todd, the first horse, of course, is Archangelo. Everyone talking about this classic winner, and he's been out here galloping for Jenna Antonucci. We checked in with horse and trainer, and they are just going to be doing the same thing every single day with that mid-morning gallop. Of course, you guys saw White Abarrio put in his final paces this morning under Emily Ellingwood, and he looked tremendous. We'll, of course, see a walk day from him the next day or two. Speaking of walk days, Senor Buscador also had a walk day today. He put in a very nice in-company move yesterday with a huge gallop about Todd Fincher. Very happy with that, and we'll hopefully see him back on track tomorrow. And then finally, Go Rocket Ride was supposed to work. He got that work nixed, but hopefully we'll see him coming out for a 7-furlong drill tomorrow. Keno, how about you?
Well, Michelle, one of the top 3-year-olds going into the Breeders' Cup Classic this year is Arabian Knight for Hall of Famer Bob Baffert. He just galloped today, and Baffert just informed me a few moments ago that Arabian Knight is scheduled to have his final workout for the Classic on Monday right here at Santa Anita. 2 horses that won on Dubai World Cup night, that is Dermotagaki and Ushba Tesoro, are here at Santa Anita as well. They both hit the track today. Ushba Tesoro went out about 6:45, Dermotagaki a little bit later, closer to 8 o'clock. Both of the Japanese horses are scheduled to have their final workouts next week as well on Tuesday or Wednesday, which falls in line with the time frame when they're training and racing in their native Japan. And then lastly, guys, Miss the Cut. He's on the outside looking in right now and, well, missing the cut for the Breeders' Cup Classic. John Sadler told me, of course, they want to run in the Classic, but the backup plan for now is possibly a marathon race on the undercard here at Santa Anita, or maybe even shipping to Churchill Downs and taking a look at the Grade 1 Clark. In the meantime, Miss the Cut Todd is scheduled to have his final workout tomorrow right here at Santa Anita. So that's the very latest on a few of the contenders, Todd, for the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Thank you very much, Joaquin. Thank you to Michelle Yu. Thank you to Christina Blacker. Thank you to Kate Brightar. Thank you to Scott Hazelton. Thank you to you. Good to be back with you.
Yeah,
Breakfast
likewise.
At the Breeders' Cup.
Thank you to you. Great job.
And the biggest thank you is to you who watch us each and every morning leading up to the 40th edition of the Breeders' Cup World Championships. For all our staff, this has been Breakfast at the Breeders' Cup, presented by Fasig Tipton and WinStar.